I'm feeling bearish this week.
Feeling bearish? You get the fuck off this bullish podcast.
Bearish about what? Let's just be clear. There's nothing bearish on this podcast, bitch.
So how does inflation and a centralised banking system provide equality? That's my big question to you.
It's super equal. It's just that the banks are way more equal than you are.
It's like something out of Animal Farm. Was that transsexual or trans dolphin?
As long as it starts with a T and ends in an actual, and I think that's just you get straight to the final round of interviews.
This episode's just been cancelled.
Okay, so here it is. It's a monumentous one. Episode 20 of the 4Bs, Mr. All-In, Dr. Evil 10%, and myself, Sir Never Look. A shadow guest, as always, Miss No Show. Nowhere to be seen. But how's everyone doing again? I say it's my famous line, busy world in the Bitcoin world.
It has been. Yeah, and this is 2020. The biggest one's going to be next week because 21. We love 21 in Bitcoin. So
that's the one.
We have to try and figure out what to do with that. We have to have like some Satoshi knowledge or something dropped because it's a proper Bitcoin number 21. So
I'm feeling bearish this week.
Feeling bearish? You get the fuck off this bullish podcast.
Bearish about what? Let's just be clear. There's nothing bearish on this podcast, bitch.
I don't feel we're going to get to 250k this year.
That is bearish.
Okay. That was my prediction as well. 250. Yeah. Why so bearish? I don't look. So if the price has gone up, if it's gone down, I don't know why.
We'll cover some of these points in this podcast, but I think the news, particularly when something like the IMF are hooking onto it, we're obviously going to convince you boomers and various other speculators not to invest in Bitcoin because it seems to be a little bit of a concern. And it may be worth going on to that one since I just mentioned it, but the IMF published a tweet which got picked up by the Bitcoin community and linked to an article which used about every single bit of FUD which they could. So I think it had electricity, I think it had unstable, I think it had money laundering, I think it had drugs. What else did it have in there? It literally had the whole lot. It's like they're trying to play bingo or something.
Yeah.
It did actually have some positives in there as well. As in, it did admit that it was cheaper, faster, enhances financial inclusion, improves resilience, competition, facilitates cross-border transfers. So it does weirdly play on that.
It was a local trading, wasn't it? So, like the examples which you used for El Salvador, where someone can go and pay their bill. I think that's one which they used as a main positive, but it just seemed a load of, please don't use this, otherwise we'll be defunct.
Yeah. Pretty much, it's one of those, isn't it, where they're essentially admitting it's a much better product, but then they have to go, but look at the cost of this better product. And you're going to get money laundering, terrorism, you're going to get tax evasion. And ultimately, they're pretty much going to say the world just bursts into flames and everyone's going to be in like a Mad Max environment at the end of it. So maybe we should stick with fiat because this Bitcoin thing is going to ruin the world. And in reality, it's like, no, you're the IMF. You're essentially the head organizer.
You're saving your jobs and saving your friends.
Yeah.
You've got a vested interest.
It's always the same thing. This is always the same analogy we always get to. This is like asking a taxi driver what they think of Uber. It's like asking the papers what they thought of the internet. They're always going to slag it off and say it's not as good as what we've got now, and this new thing is going to ruin the world. And
if you pick apart some of the points of the electricity, so the point which I always go back to, which we don't have a figure, how much electricity does it take to run all the banks, all the cash points, all the gold mining, and anything associated with the current fiat system, and put that against Bitcoin? I bet you Bitcoin's less.
Oh, I think someone did do it. We did have it as a topic where Bitcoin was at 0.1%, and I think the banks and all that were between 7 and 10% of the world's energy usage, whereas Bitcoin was 0.1. And obviously, their argument will be, the banks at the moment are running the entire financial system, so of course it's going to be more. And Bitcoin's a tiny subsection of the amount of transactions done every day. And I agree with all those things. But the thing is, Bitcoin doesn't need much more energy than it uses right now at 0.1% to scale from the tens of millions of transactions we do a day now to tens of billions of transactions. The amount of energy we need might need to double or triple. It doesn't need to 100x the amount of energy we need. So,
and just for reference on that, the Lightning network enables this.
Yeah. Well, the fact is, it's just that like the amount of energy we use in Bitcoin right now, it is a huge amount, but it's essentially that it almost reaches like an equilibrium, because the more miners that go on, the less competitive, or the more competitive the network is, which then means the difficulty adjustment goes up, which then means it takes longer to mine, and there's only so many blocks coming out. So essentially, like the amount of miners on the network, it reaches like if you have too many, they're not profitable. If you don't have enough, they're making too much money, and new people come in. It kind of reaches this nice sweet spot based on the price of Bitcoin. So once the price starts going up, then more miners will join, but it won't 100x. It will probably 3 to 5x the amount of energy we need, which at current usage, 0.5% of the world's energy would be used, and compared to 10% at the moment. So
just unpacking that as well, though, with more miners joining at 900 Bitcoin a day, and then obviously going to 450, it's again that sweet spot of there's Bitcoins that are out there, but at the same time, the price is going up as well. So it's that catch-22. Do I want to invest that money to get the Bitcoins versus somebody that's already established, already doing this and all of that energy? And so it'll be interesting to see how it plays out when there's less Bitcoin coming out, but the price again is higher.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is, like with the halving, like last time it happened, like that, the halving, I think Bitcoin was around $1,000. So yeah, the Bitcoin halved, but the price of Bitcoin in the next 4 years 10x. So it was more profitable to mine. And then this time, the halving happened. Where were we? We're around $10,000, weren't we? I think we're just below that. So already now, the number of Bitcoin coming out halved, but now again we have pretty much 5x'd. So half the Bitcoin, but 5 times the price. If we keep doing that, the amount of Bitcoin halves, but the amount of the price 5 to 10x's, it's constantly the miners are just more incentivized to go after less Bitcoin, but it's actually more valuable.
Yeah. So to throw in some others from here, so we've got it's a shortcut. So we're saying they think you're going to take a shortcut. Crypto assets are unlikely to catch on in countries with stable inflation exchange rates. So I think using Darnell's phrase there, let's unpack that. So stable inflation, 3 to 5%. It's not just a one-off, it's every year. So compound inflation, like have you ever seen the graph of the dollar? It just goes down and down and down, showing how much the dollar devalues.
Yeah.
So when someone says stable inflation, it's stable stealth tax.
100%.
And it's still it's every 15 years, your money halves in value. That's what it means.
And then the next one is, even in relatively less stable economies, the use of globally recognized reserve currencies such as a dollar or euro would likely be more alluring than adopting a crypto asset. So your asset halving every 15 years versus potentially big gains. What else have we got in here? It needs internet access. I'm pretty sure that most of fiat does. How do you get, if there's no internet access, so networks are down in the world, how do you get money out of an ATM?
Yeah. Well, at the moment, the only way that cash does work offline is physical cash. But they're trying to ban that and they're trying to get rid of it. So it's all 100% digital. So they can't.
So internet goes off tomorrow for the whole world. How do you get cash?
Oh, yeah. It's only the cash you've physically got on you. Yeah. That's the only cash you can spend, which that's the one tiny advantage it has over Bitcoin, is you might have, say, £100 on you. So you can go do your shopping tomorrow if the internet goes off for a day. But And in Bitcoin or a digital world, you physically you couldn't in theory, but unless you had access to the Bitcoin satellite. So there are Bitcoiners right now firing satellites up into space.
Love it.
Serious.
You can actually buy a kit from Blockstream for £200, and you can get the receiver to put on your house that will receive the transactions from the blockchain that are being beamed up to the satellite, and you can then receive the signal back. So if the internet goes down, instead of using your node to send transactions through the internet, you can just hook it up and send them through to the satellite, and they'll sync that way. So you can actually do it.
Is that a one-off subscription or?
Yeah. It's a passive receiver. So once you've got the kit, the signal is just constantly hitting you, and you can send transactions back through it as well. So there's no subscription. It's a £200 one-off cost.
Yeah. Might be cheap right now, I think, because the fear of that happening will be heightened as time goes on. So perhaps paying that one-off fee might be a good thing.
Yeah, it's one of those though. I don't really buy the internet attack because the world is done on the internet, right?
Yeah.
So they can't switch the internet off as an attack on Bitcoin because the world stops if they do that.
And then you got the final point. At the end, it says striking a balance. So it keeps on going blah, blah, blah. Governments need to step up to provide these services in order to provide, and it lists off a bunch of it says equality. So how does inflation and a centralized banking system provide equality? That's my big question to you.
It's super equal. It's just that the banks are way more equal than you are.
It's like something out of Animal Farm.
I actually read a different article that was that said Bitcoin is sexist because they looked into it, and 75% of people that own Bitcoin are male, so therefore Bitcoin must be like keeping women out of Bitcoin. I'm like, oh yeah. There's in Bitcoin there's a proof of penis, and when I went to try to buy Bitcoin, I had to show my dick at the door, and if I didn't have one, I wasn't allowed to buy it. Like it's so sexist.
Did you not identify as a woman when you bought your Bitcoin?
Well, no. If I had, I wouldn't be able to buy any, apparently, because Bitcoin's sexist, man.
So if you change gender, will that mean you just get to keep your Bitcoin?
I know, it's weird. I don't know. I might have to double think like my sex change, like because I really wanted to be the CEO or a chairman on one of the big Silicon Valley companies. So I was going to go tranny. Because that's apparently a really easy way. If I have to hand my Bitcoin in, then I'm going to have to think it again.
You're going to have to rethink everything.
Was that transsexual or trans dolphin?
As long as it starts with a T and ends in an actual, and I think that's just you get straight to the final round of interviews.
This episode's just been cancelled. We're about 5 minutes in.
Yeah.
But I thought that's a really good topic. It's one which was on Twitter, and I was reading through the replies on it, and they're just classic. I think one had about they had the FUD dice, and it's just like they'd managed to roll everything with a FUD dice, hadn't they?
Yeah, it's funny as well. I always think whenever I do see things published by the IMF on Twitter, I think, oh my gosh, why do you put yourself up for this punishment that is about to come your way? Like, surely they're reading the responses and thinking, why are we doing this for?
Yeah, because just imagine though, if you were just like a normal person that didn't know about Bitcoin, right, and you fire up your Twitter account and maybe you follow some government accounts, and the IMF puts this out, and you're like, oh, I'm quite interested in crypto and Bitcoin. I'll give their little article a read. You're like, oh, right, okay, that was quite balanced. You know, some pros and some cons, because you don't know that all the cons.
I don't know. I would read that and think it stinks like shit.
You probably would.
It's too much on the attack.
Yeah, but then you go to the comments, like you said, and it's just 100% flames, memes. You're a joke. This is corrupt. You're like, holy shit. So weirdly, what they're doing is by putting this article out, designed as FUD, but because they put it out on social media, Bitcoiners find it. And then underneath, and it's like, you're causing more damage because I reckon you're making Bitcoiners here, because this article, probably 3 people believed it. And there's hundreds that probably landed on the comments.
But say out out of 100, say, I don't know, 30 to 50 probably would have read that who are into Bitcoin. But it will have adopted, another amount of people who have just gone, this is too much on the defensive. It doesn't sit right, the article, one bit. And they wouldn't maybe they bought the Bitcoin standard, started reading into it then.
But also as well, it make you think, okay, why are these people saying all of these things? Like, could they be true? And then let them go down their own rabbit hole as to where all these memes and articles come from that are kind of debunking the article as well. And I think, okay, right. So then that sets them off. And if anything, like you say, they're doing more damage than good. So keep on pumping out the FUD, IMF.
Yeah, if I was their social manager, I would give them this one little tip. When you write an article and tweet it out, you can manage the replies and you can make it so only the people you follow can reply, because I would do that. It's like on YouTube where you put turn off comments, because the NHS have done it. Nearly every political party.
What's his name keeps on doing? Is it Fauci? And it's literally, he turns off comments, or they turn off comments. Then you look at the, because on YouTube, it's got the thumbs up, thumbs down. And it's a ridiculous amount down versus up. And that kind of just shows you what's going on. Whereas Twitter, you can either like or comment, can't you? There's no, this is a moron story. Wish there was a button for that.
Yeah. Well, normally you can tell. It's like, if anything, the like and dislike comment on YouTube, in Twitter world, it's more like a comment and a like. And normally, if you ever see a tweet with more comments than likes, you can guarantee the comments all calling it a pile of shit. And I think on that IMF tweet, it was the same thing. Had like 100 likes, but like 500 comments. You're like, that's 400 people that wanted to say this was a pile of shit, but weren't allowed because there's no down button on Twitter. So you just comment and meme them.
I thought that was a good part of the week. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, I think you have nearly 2,500 comments on that with 901 likes.
Oh, there you go.
So, up to date.
Nice. But then you also found a good article, Ross, from The Guardian, didn't you? Which is probably one of the best articles I've ever read about Bitcoin in the mainstream.
It confused me because I read it. I can't remember where I saw it, and I was just like, what's going on here?
I don't know.
Why is The Guardian writing something pro Bitcoin when the Guardian is usually licking the balls of the government?
Yeah. I tried to look at the guy as well. Is it Lou Harris?
I didn't look into him at all.
Or Ellis.
Larry Elliott.
Yes, that's it. Larry Elliott. And he doesn't have his own Twitter account. And I couldn't find anything else out on him, because that surely would have had to have gone through the editor to then be published.
But it's also like The Guardian is, there is a weird thing, like I've been thinking about Bitcoin and politics, because it's obviously very liberal, Bitcoin, and the left is in a certain way. The Guardian is a left-leaning paper, so maybe it is their take on the writers associated with fiat. Maybe it could be that kind of take which they're looking at, but they all do kind of like are managed by the government, so it is quite strange that it got that far.
Yeah. So let's just to give a little bit of context to this. So Larry Elliott published an article called "The Rise of Cryptocurrencies Can Be Traced to Nixon Abandoning Gold in 1971." He starts off giving a go for it.
I was just going to say, I think it's in 1944 as well with the Bretton Woods. But yeah.
It's brilliant, because what he does, they go through it, don't they? They literally, just as the Bitcoin standard does in a way. Yeah. It goes back to like the history of money. It doesn't go all the way back. It starts from coming off the gold standard. It explains that it was supposed to be temporary. We're 50 years later, or nearly 100 years later in some cases, depending on what country you're in.
Yeah.
Clearly it isn't temporary, because we're still doing it, and not doing it at even smaller rates. We're doing it vastly faster rates. It's causing inflation. They're putting it in here that they call it QE and all that, but we can see house prices are going up, wages are staying stagnant, the gap of equality is getting wider and wider, the top 1% getting further ahead because of this fiat money. And then they actually, for the first ever time, because I've seen that bit talked about loads in the media by and large, they're pretty honest about a lot of that. But then this one has just got the final piece, which is, well, what's the solution? Like, fine, like now it's all doom and gloom, we're all fucked, great. Like, that's what all the media does. But they actually then finish with, and this is why people are buying Bitcoin, because it's a hedge against inflation. You can't inflate it. It's got a fixed supply. It's decentralized and can't be corrupted. And then also, oh, by the way, people are also buying gold as well, because again, it's another hedge. And I'm fine with them throwing that little bit in. And I'm like, this is a complete article from start to finish. They don't bring in normally, and every time I've actually seen Bitcoin being used as a hedge as well, it's like the IMF article, which then goes, oh, it is a hedge, but you're a dickhead if you buy it because it's boiling the oceans and it's for criminals and da. In this, they're just nice and balanced and just go, yeah, it's a hedge against inflation.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
So it ended with Tricky Dicky didn't know it in 1971, but 50 years on from his decisions led to a world of volatile financial markets, geopolitical tension, inflated asset prices underwritten by low interest rates and QE, quantitative easing, and where trust in central banks is starting to wear a bit thin. In the circumstances, it is perhaps easy to understand why governments have decided to hold on to their remaining gold stocks. So it is a definite point. But something which I was thinking about with this whole kind of situation, and I suppose it's one evil versus the other. So when you look at any kind of term of a president or prime minister, it's somewhere like 4 or 5 years, isn't it? So in order for them to do the most good, they've got to spend a fuckload of money by inflation. Whereas you've got the alternative, if you want some long term, it turns into a dictator, doesn't it? So that's your kind of like, how do you balance between the two? Because you could go, let's have a commitment to this party for 50 years. And they've got absolute power, but they've got Bitcoin. They're going to be corrupt as fuck anyway. So it's like, how do you balance the two between the 4 and 5 years, actually having some long term versus the short term?
Yeah. Whenever I look at stuff like this, I always think about it as a company. The government is just a company. It's just one of a huge company. And would you just switch the CEO out every 4 years just because, oh, that's what you should do? And
only fans streaming background.
No sense to do that.
Like, you had a massive pause. I don't know if you would have captured that, but we missed it.
Yeah.
It just said I was unstable. I'm back. I am unstable.
I was going to say no change there.
Yeah, we've noticed.
I was just saying, like, would you change your CEO every 4 years? Would that be standard practice? Because I treat companies and governments the same thing, right? And it's complete garbage. Of course, you wouldn't change a CEO every 4 years. You set out long.
But you'd sack him for bad performance.
Exactly. Yeah,
you'd review it, wouldn't you? Review.
You also wouldn't, like, this is like, say, but you wouldn't sack the CEO every year. You give him time.
Oh yeah, definitely. You've got to give them a couple of years to put their mark and then build up and take their direction. Like, we've seen it where we all worked. I think we all worked under 2 CEOs. The first one, he definitely had his approach, and you kind of went, what's going on? When you saw the bigger picture, and he took us on that journey. The second one, I think heads were scratched again, and then you started seeing him taking on the journey again after a couple of years, and it took him his route, and it's both times highly successful.
Yeah. And when it's also working, you don't just randomly just go, oh, it's working great. Let's just call an election. And then some hotshot comes out and starts like throwing him under the bus, like, and then we have a big political thing that the person that was in that job now has to go and repitch. And the original vision they gave you probably isn't exciting enough now because the new guy that's come in has gone bigger. So he has to now come in and go bigger again. And it's like, why disrupt that? It's just total waste of time and energy. The guy doing the job is doing a great job. Let him just carry on. If he's doing a bad job, then great. Call him in and go, we need to review this. And that's what companies do. You review it when it goes wrong. You don't just review it on a time basis, because that's just nonsense. And that's what we do.
But we are on that. And people use politics as a way of religion now, don't they? So they're like, I'm a diehard Labour, I'm a diehard Conservative. What are their policies? Don't know.
Also, as well, just on that point, sometimes when you get your new CEO or obviously your new politician, they have to spend part of that time fixing the problems or the things that they feel are the problems and challenges that the old person left. So, they need a bit of time to bed in for that, but then also to kind of get the lay of the land. So they always talk about the first 100 days. Then they need to, of course, focus on some of the things that they said that they would do, and then sometimes find out that they can't do those things. And then, as you then said as well, they want to then go bigger and better than the previous person before, all within this short time period before they have to go for re-election, if we're using the 4 to 5 year analogy. And the other person that's trying to also take their job then says, I'll be able to do that. And they come up with this shiny new plan, which typically derails the progress that the other person's usually made.
Yeah. And in reality, like no one actually does their plan.
No.
Virtually, like the public don't even expect them to do the plan. And they expect to get found out as well. So they typically get voted out after the first term. Maybe they scrape through to a second, but that'll be definitely it.
Oh,
but then what's the punishment for that, though? They end up earning millions a year in the private sector instead. Even though they don't deliver on anything for the public. It literally doesn't matter. And we always go back to it. It's like incentives matter. And if there's no punishment for not succeeding, all you got to do, the aim in politics is just get the job, get the top job. You make all these very high powered mates. You can promise the public whatever the fuck they want. They're just plebs. Doesn't matter. Just survive as long as you can. Doesn't matter how you get sacked. It can be shamed. It can be through corruption. It can be through affairs. Doesn't seem to matter. The mates that you make there, once you leave, you walk into these non-exec chairman type roles and earn millions a year, get gifted loads of shares, and life's all good, even though your time in politics was a complete disaster. You only got to look at David Cameron.
Tony Blair. Tony Blair's worth a shed load of money, and what did he do? He's a war criminal.
Yeah, but at least he was loved. Like people like Tony Blair, like he lasted for 8 years. Like he did reinvent stuff. Like someone like David Cameron, he kind of like snaked in the back door, ended up letting Brexit happen. Got shamed and just quit after, I don't know how long he lasted. I think it was only like 3 years, 2 years.
Just sunk into the background, like after detonating that grenade, effectively.
Yeah, literally did not want to face any of it, did he? He caused it, and he's like, I should manage this through. He quit the next day and just went, fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah. And, he's like, fuck you all, I don't want this shit.
Yeah. And then someone looked into his finances the other day, and he earns like on average between 10 and 20 million pounds a year since Brexit happened. You're like,
but my point
is that
he never needed to make that money though. He always had a trust fund.
Yeah.
These people are made for these positions. Like if you think that you're going to rise from the bottom to that, not a chance. Yeah. You were born into it.
Yeah, you'll get cancelled well before you get anywhere near the top. Yeah. This is the thing. This is one of the biggest lies I think we're told, even as people, and I think I still kind of believed it as well up until probably a couple of years ago, which is that we live in a democracy. I mean, in reality, we don't. We live in a dictatorship, just like China does. We have the illusion of choice. We have different guys standing up there with different coloured ties, saying slightly different policies. Like, I'm for the environment, I'm for the NHS, and I'm for business. And when you actually distill it down, like, if they get in, what's going to happen? The same stuff. So we are living in a dictatorship. We just get told we're living in a democracy, but there's no one that can actually make real change.
But at least Trump was funny. And he had good memes.
Trump was hilarious. Yeah.
Well, I've got to say that Biden is pretty funny too. He falls asleep during interviews and he is senile. Like, I know we shouldn't laugh about that, but the fact that they've actually chosen their party leader for someone who's senile and people have voted him in.
Yeah, on the Trump thing, and I know we've said it before, I'm not a Trump fan, but for the average person, they could learn a lot by just simply looking at the things that he's done and, the way that he's got ahead, and also from a capitalism perspective as well.
But he was born ahead.
He was born ahead with a little loan of $60 million from his father.
Yeah, and that was back in, what was it, like, the 1940s or something. So imagine how much
I think it's 60s or 70s. He's not quite that old, guys.
Yeah.
He's 80, how old is he? 70?
I was going to say the 40s, that'd be 60, 80 years ago. He'd have to be 100 for that loan.
Yeah. So it's probably about the 60s, 70s. Yeah, 60s or 70s he was given the loan, but for inflation-wise...
assuming like from birth, like that's...
Biden might be that old.
Yeah. I mean, weirdly, Biden, I think they're about a year apart, which actually does show you how good shape Trump's in. But in a way, it is sad because it is like he does genuinely have dementia, and dementia ages you. So
he came to power, Trump, and he's like, the doctor said he'd never seen someone in such good shape, and he did his weird repeating itself. Everyone was just like, shut up. But in fairness, he's so sharp. It is true. At that age, he is. I remember my granddad at 80, he'd slowed down.
Oh, yeah.
Biden's 78, by the way. Biden 78, 1942. Trump is obviously about 70, 75. So 3 years apart.
You see, Biden is 6, 7 years older than my dad. And there's a phenomenal difference. It is quite sad, but like I said, it's funny in respect that he's been voted in. He's been put forward and brought in. You just kind of go, it's not right. It's not normal, is it?
No. And it is super ironic that when Trump got in, one of the attacks they had on him was they said he was senile, which is why he then went on a purposeful point of repeating things and proving he could remember things for long periods of time. And some of his speeches were genuinely some of the greatest of all times. He would not have a teleprompter and he would just rant for 3 hours straight. And people just went,
I love his rants. I love the ones about crooked Hillary.
Yeah. And it's the fact that they went after him for being senile. And then Trump clearly is not senile. You might not agree with him and think he's a bit crazy. He clearly is not senile. And then 4 years later, they wrote in Biden. He can't even read from the teleprompter. He can't see it.
And he fell asleep during an interview, didn't he, with some of the head of state?
Yeah,
there's some great memes of that where they've photoshopped an accordion in, and he's like,
no, that's a different one. You've got the one where he fell asleep. And then you've got the one where he starts playing the Titanic theme tune on a harmonica, but that's when he gets asked about Afghanistan. And it's just he gets a pure panic and his head goes down. And he's just everyone's just what's he doing? And he just doesn't know what to do to answer it.
I love the falling up the stairs as well on the plane. that had me crying.
Weirdly, Trump's actually put out a video. He seems to be campaigning. It says Trump 2024 on it, and his new slogan is Save America. And he's put together a 1.5 minute video, and it's all Biden's best bits. It's the falling up the stairs. It's
you've got to share that.
Oh man, well it's obviously Trump's not on Twitter anymore, so it's harder to find. But he's got a website, and someone grabbed the video off that, and I can see Trump getting voted straight back in after this Biden thing, because
the whole thing about Afghanistan, the fact that he is senile and is being put forward, and what's her name, Harris, the deputy, she seems a little bit sinister from what I've seen. Obviously, I've seen things slanted in my Twitter timeline, but something seems a little bit off with her. But I suppose she is a politician after all.
Yeah, no, she's a cutthroat businesswoman. She will do anything to further her career. She claims to be, she would be the first woman president, also Black. You would think this is the coming of the ages, someone that's come from two minorities there in America to be the first. But her history is just, you would think she's a 50-year-old white guy from the boomer town, because she's put more Black people in prison for minor drug charges than any other person in the history. I think she was the defense attorney of New York, and during her time there, more Black people went to prison for minor drug charges than any other time. No other defense attorney has done as many as her. And you just think that would be the time that things some common sense get brought in, that these minor charges from people living in poor backgrounds, instead of putting them in prison and making things worse, you'd think it would be someone like her that would go, you know what? We need a smarter approach. Let's not punish these people. Let's start educating them. Let's get them better jobs, better opportunities. Don't just make the system go round.
It's what they're meant to be about, isn't it? The left.
And when you actually look at their actions, all they want to do is put poor people in prison. It's just
anyway, it's business, isn't it?
We've gone on quite a tangent about this. We start off about the Guardian article. We've ended up about joking about Biden and even Harris now. So what do we want to move on to?
The next one, I think, would be good to David Morgan. So I was quite surprised by this, where, if we're going along the theme of surprises from the mainstream. So I've never come across this guy in particular, but in the silver world, he's quite renowned. And I was watching an interview with him, and he was clearly stating to everyone, like, get out of the banking system. Don't trust the banking system. And this was quite big for me because he also talked about Bitcoin, he talked about gold, and he was just clearly talking about, don't trust what is going on. But where he went a little bit further is he also mentioned about what would happen when a bank run would occur. So if there was a recession once again, so the bank said all of a sudden, you cannot get to your money. He says it's a little bit different than what we expect. So you can get your money. Let's say you've got £1,000 in there, you might only be allowed to get 200 of it. And the fact that he went into that, and he also went into the fact that the bank own your money and you don't own that. And that was quite eye-opening for me, because I thought, it's got a point there, actually. Like, I better have something close to me. Again, classic Bitcoin or cash. So I don't know if you guys watched the interview.
Yeah, I did. I thought it's really good, yeah, and I think it's all about who it is, isn't it? I hadn't heard of this David Morgan guy before, but apparently he's very well respected in traditional circles, and he's not known as an alarmist. I think the interviewer said numerous times, like, he doesn't come out and say the system's about to fall every 2 seconds, like, because there's people like that, aren't they? They're constantly predicting. They're the doom and gloomers. They're always like, the system's about to blow up, blah, 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 like, run to the hills, like, go get your tins of beans. It's like, this guy is very sensible. He's a business guy. And this is one of the first ever times he's actually going, this looks bad.
Yeah.
The amount of money they are printing looks dangerous. And this is, like, he is even saying, like, he isn't personally going into Bitcoin, but he can see why people are. He's a precious metals guy. So he's just like, it's a better time than ever to be in things like precious metals, because you do not know what's going to happen when this all goes pop. If you just own cash in the bank, you have no clue how much money you're going to get back when this all blows up, if any at all. And it's just another example of, and I think it kind of relates back to that Guardian article again. The guy that wrote that is, he's a guy in his 60s, and he's gone the full way and gone, the solution is Bitcoin. This guy isn't quite there yet. He mentioned Bitcoin as an answer, and he said, I can see why people buy it. I don't trust it, but I see why other people do. I'm a silver and gold guy. So these people that have been around the block, they're in their 60s, 70s, they've seen a few crashes in their time. They're predicting another one. And these guys don't tend to be wrong when they come out, and they're suggesting, like, this is what you need to do. You need to get into a store of value. You need to get into something safe, because this financial bubble is about to go bang. It's going to go bang big. It's going to be the US dollar that goes, not a crappy, like, we get enough shockwaves when a Greece or something blows up. But when the US dollar blows up, you don't want your money in a US dollar backed bank.
See, this is a hard thing, because I suppose everyone's so invested in making sure you save a little bit of money for a rainy day, and then stocks and shares, and you're looking at all that potentially getting shredded. I suppose the stocks and shares could pivot in a way if the companies can kind of like get through that period of the dollar collapsing and moving on to different currency. Then I suppose shares could be worth something. But then, like you said, the cash, it's got fundamental issues, and every currency is pretty much backed by the dollar.
Yeah.
We've seen what happens, haven't we? You if the money disappears, and this is what that guy even says. He said, then the way they're going to get out of the next banking crisis is they won't be able to print enough money to get themselves out. What they're going to do is they're going to steal your savings. He said instead of a bail out, they're going to do a bail in.
Correct.
Where the banks take the money from their depositors and just move it into their account. Because they can't afford to print the amount of money they're going to need. They're just going to steal it. And that was his red flag. He went, that's what they're doing next. That was his prediction. And I'd never thought that one before. Like, I just thought, oh, yeah, they're going to inflate it. So potentially you don't get your money back, but it's the spending power that tends to go. Or they might give you a haircut where, like, they've done, what is it, in Argentina or something? They take like 10, 20% off the top. But on this one, he was like, they could take an 80% haircut. They're just going to move the money from your account into the bank's coffers. And you're just going to have to live with it. And you're like, holy shit.
That was what caught me, exactly that part. I remember because, I mean, it's like a week ago. I think it was one of the first points I put on the agenda. So I hadn't revisited the article, the interview back. But yeah, when they said they will steal your money, I was just like, oh.
Like, can they do that?
Yeah, can they do that? Yeah, can they do that? And because they can do it because it's in their possession, even though it's your money, it's in their possession. And I was just like, oh, it's opened up a whole new door right now. Yeah. And this is real.
Yeah, because in reality, like at the moment, can they legally do that? Absolutely not. But in an emergency situation, guess what they do? They make up new fucking stupid laws. They're always temporary, just like they did with the pandemic. And just like if this banking crisis all blows up, guess what? We'll be in emergency state again. And they'll make up a law. And that the law will be to save the world, we're bailing them in. And how are we doing that? Yeah, we're stealing 80% of your life savings. But it's a one-off. It's for the future.
Interesting where that goes, because you kind of think, traditional person, have they got money split, shares, cash, pension, house. So where do they skim the money out of someone? Do they take it out of everything?
Yeah, they'll probably do the inflation thing as well. But
yeah, I would say they do that.
So you think about the assets, like they can obviously take cash because that's easy. In terms of shares and pensions and so on, can they take anything out of that because it's all representative of the market?
They can up the capital gains on it. I saw that rumored they were going to double that from 20% to 40%. And then on property, it's the same thing. They can just do taxes. So they can raise your council tax. They could 10x your council tax. And then obviously you've got the, what's it called? Stamp duty. And then just various, and also capital gains on houses that you're selling that isn't your first home. So they can always get the assets. And so the one that I saw that they I think it was about a year ago, they rumored it in the UK. They were going to double capital gains tax, and that was going to be the last straw for me. I was going to leave. That was ridiculous. 20% I can just about stomach. They were about to double it to 40%. That seems to have gone away, but they can bring that back.
I think I was reading them. I'm trying to remember what on earth the book is, which I'm reading at the moment. It's about inflation. So it's called 40 Centuries of Wage and Price Controls, How Not to Fight Inflation. And I think it references that if you tax what's considered a reasonable amount, then more people will pay, because anyone who's beyond a certain point will hide their money. So it's what Trump actually put into practice was he lowered the taxes on the rich, and everyone's like, what are you doing? But what it meant was more of the rich people were paying taxes because they were willing to meet him at his level. Whereas when you go 50, 60%, people are like, no. I'll do this and this and this.
I'll spend
the
money to find out how I can get away from spend.
So, their wife's now their secretary. They're now part of a limited company. They're getting paid dividends, and all this. Their sons on the bankroll, their daughters on the bankroll, even their grandkids who haven't even had her on the bankroll, things like that. But if you actually put a reasonable amount of tax, you bring these people into the loop and they're going, 25%, I can pay that. Whereas when you charge them 50% income tax on the super rich, they just go, I'll pay someone to find a way around that. And it's the same with capital gains. They'll find a way.
But that was it. So the super rich always do try to find a way. But I think what he was saying as well is that unfortunately, he couldn't, but he was actually trying to get out of the banking system altogether as well. And I think he was trying to send an alarm bell to others to also somehow get themselves out of the banking system so that when it does crash, you won't be affected in the same way.
But say if they do a wealth tax, then won't they be looking at assets stored in other ways? So you're looking at your gold. Oh yeah, we can see you got registered purchases of gold for so many years. You've got 200 grand's worth sitting in a bank. They'll just take it. You won't be storing that stuff at home. Yeah. And then, does the same apply to Bitcoin? Kind of may lead into another one about the fact that they want records around what crypto assets are bought. So are you storing all your money in crypto assets? Will they try and shave that?
Oh, yeah. I think they will. The good thing is about those two is that you at least have a period of choice around it, because they bring these laws in. And if you're in the system, then the day they bring it in, and it's probably actually, if they're in an actual crisis, it'll just happen overnight. And you'll try to log into your account and the withdraw button will be blocked, or even the login page won't even work. Yeah. That's what the people in Afghanistan have found. It's what every single banking crisis we've ever had. This doesn't happen slowly. You go from being fine to suddenly the banks are closed and your app doesn't work on your phone anymore. So whereas if you've got the gold or the Bitcoin, you have a bit more time, and they'll go after the easy money first, and then they come after the harder money later. So, and then we get the choice, and hopefully this is going to be where it's so important to start sats and try and get financially free, because if you're not, then you're going to have to abide by the laws of the land. And that would be my advice. Like if they do bring in ridiculous taxes on your Bitcoin and you don't have enough to flee and go somewhere that's more friendly, then I would suggest you pay, because they will come for you and they will put you in prison. So no amount of money is worth your freedom. It's I would pay. They're like the mafia. I would pay them off, give them their 50%. But hopefully, if you can stack enough stats, once this type of stuff happens, you go, fuck you. You're not having half my Bitcoin. And you buy some plane tickets and you go. And you pay a more friendly government. You pay them for a new passport. You move in and you live free there instead.
And we've just seen it as well in Afghanistan, 100%. If they could do that or are doing that, they're playing it out right now in front of your eyes. And the challenge is that you always think that it's not you. Afghanistan is so far away. It's always had issues. It's always had problems. I don't need to worry or prepare like that, because
was it Malta had a haircut of, was that 10 or 20% around about 2008, 2009? It was either Malta or Cyprus was one of those. Cyprus was so that's an example 13. Of a close to home one. And then you've had Argentina, which is been a mess for 100 years.
No, it's Britain and America, isn't it? We just think we're untouchable.
Yeah,
it'll never happen here. That is a massive attitude of that.
Also, as well, that news or that type of news will never really reach the mainstream as well. So therefore, they will be numb to actually knowing what's gone on, because people are still holidaying there and still going to all of these countries, Argentina, Cyprus, Malta. But
not going to Afghanistan.
I'm not going to Afghanistan. No.
unless you want to adopt a dog.
But ultimately, that's leaving people in the dark once again, isn't it? And the whole purpose of the podcast is to shed light on what you can do as a everyday pleb.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like at the moment, when you compare how Britain and America are reacting, like the average person on the street, they are the most relaxed I've ever seen them.
Yeah.
Ever. People are buying bigger homes, they're buying nice cars, they're doing it at their gardens. There's any available cash, they're spending it on lodge holidays. A couple of people going abroad with what they can. Like 70% of the population doesn't work for 18 months. The ones that did worked at home, and who knows how much fucking work they did. And it's just, what are we doing with our spare cash? Are we hoarding this and putting it into store of value for a rainy day because holy shit, this doesn't seem to be making sense? Nope. The average person is out there spending. They're so grateful for a little bit of freedom, and they're spending their available cash, which ultimately always ends up back into the coffers of the same people every single time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we really need to, this is, we've said this before, but these big or societies collapse once the people stop working and are lazy and fat and too rich. And when you look at Britain and America right now, there's hardly anyone working or living. So many people look rich. So many new cars I see out there. People buy house prices at all-time highs. It's like,
yeah,
this does not add up. If people were working harder than ever and we had so many great companies popping up all over Britain, I'd be like, you know what? Great, land of prosperity. I'm seeing fuck all innovation. Most people work for the government in some shape or form or in admin office type jobs, answering the phone, yet they're driving around brand new BMWs and Audis in 4-bedroom houses that cost £500,000. This doesn't make sense. The music's going to stop.
It's funny. Like I was, my wife's car had a problem with the battery. I'm sitting there waiting for the AA, and I was next to a road, and I was watching the cars go past, and it was like Audi, Mercedes, BMW, all these kind of cars, and you're kind of going.
Surely you saw the Teslas as well. I'm seeing Tesla after Tesla. I'm seeing the new Land Rover Discovery all of a sudden. Everybody's got one of those as well.
A bloody Discovery. Every fucker's got a Range Rover or a Land Rover as well.
Yeah. Yeah, 100 grand wheels on the road, like it's nothing.
And you kind of going, how are all these posh or expensive cars on the road?
Yeah, blow money, y'all.
Yeah.
So on the never.
Yeah. I don't think there's enough
10% of that car.
Well, it's leasing, isn't it? So I'll put a down payment, say £2,000, and then be paying £500 a month. Or if it's something like a Range Rover, probably double that.
I don't think there's enough panic, or not even panic here. Just a classic what if in people's minds. What if something goes wrong? The money that we're getting extra, to your point, maybe we're working from home, so we could save a little, or we've not been on holiday, so maybe we'll save that money and not necessarily blow it all. There's none of that thought going on, really.
But this is the initial panic when the whole pandemic and lockdown happened. And I was just sitting there going, this doesn't make sense. I was just going over in my head. I was like, you can't close down the world to then expect people to keep on producing. So your food, your clothes, society, you can't pay people to then go, you don't have to work. It just makes no sense. And, you put that together for 18 months and it's just, we are in a shit situation. These people who are going, I've been on furlough for a year and a half. Why haven't you learned a new skill? Yeah. Why have you not learned a new skill to get a new job? Because you are not getting your job back.
I've not had time.
I haven't got time. I've got to get 9 hours of Netflix in. So it's hard to do other stuff around that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I shared a tweet the other day where I think it was actually originally from Pomp, and it showed I can't remember the time frame now. I think it was like the last 2 or 3 years, or maybe just the last year. It was the last year. The stock market hasn't gone down by more than 5% at all, and it's just being every time the market comes down, they print a load of money to send it back up.
Right.
And this has never happened in like the 30 years before. Like 5% dips and 10%, 20% dips are perfectly normal and natural. But since the pandemic, where we've had probably the most economic kind of like uncertainty time ever since like that March 2020, we're now a year and a half later, the stock market has not dipped by more than 5%. And if anything, it's 40% higher than the stock market ever has been. None of this is adding up. It just doesn't make sense. Like if we were now, like the stock market was 50% lower than it was when the pandemic started, and people were actually having to scrape money together, and there was a lot of people on benefits and really struggling, and there was lots of unemployment, then that would actually, it'd be sad, but it would make sense. And it'd be like, right, how do we fix this now? And I would actually even agree, let's build back better. When you come out of the side of the 18 months and everyone is fucking laughing and everyone's rolling in money, you're like, this ain't good, guys. No one did any work 18 months and we're all rich. This ain't going to end well, because this money is, someone's going to wake up one day and go, you know what, this money isn't worth anything, is it? And once people go, oh yeah, it's over.
Do you think they bailed everyone out too quick?
I think fundamentally they had to, because people they had to give people money to survive. I think they just
they pulled the rug from underneath everyone. But this is the point when I've said to the wife, like, that things may actually get back to normal once the furlough ends, because it's fake money. You know, you pay it is the Rome example. It's giving out free grain round Rome, which then stops the farmers working round Rome. So you end up with no production. You end up actually with no grain coming in. And then you have to regulate the control and growth of grain because of what you've done. And it same applies to people. There's no productivity. So you need to work out a way to actually sort that productivity out. But currently we're just printing monopoly money instead, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, if anything, it's just expediting the switch to China. Because guess what? Guess which of the biggest nations in the world? In reality, why there aren't too many shortages is because China only locked down for 1 month. December, that was in 2019. They opened up in January 2020, and they've been back to normal ever since. No virus, no pandemic over there, according to them. Which is why we haven't seen as many shortages as we had, because China is they're the manufacturing kind of country of the world, right? If China actually locked down for 18 months and put all their people locked indoors for 18 months, holy shit, we would feel it.
I was going to say they wouldn't do furlough.
No, they wouldn't do furlough. They'd probably just let their people die, yeah. But again, they probably wouldn't let them die, actually, because they need them. They need them in the factories, putting all the Amazon toys together.
Yep.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So we've got, what was it, October when furlough should end? So we should get it announced in September.
Bollocks. It's going to get extended because you're going to get locked down over Christmas. So it's bad.
Yeah. And I also think there'll be more, obviously, common cold is gone and it's been cured. So coronavirus will be on the rise. So I do think, furlough will be extended a little bit more.
But at some point, you've got to come out because this is just the crux of financial system.
No.
They want you in the pods, man. They want you in the pods.
Yeah, exactly.
The pods.
They want you locked at home, just with a laptop on your knee, getting furlough and fucking Deliveroo to your door. And I'm letting your government overlords decide everything.
But then there's no financial value to anything.
I know, but they own everything, because also part of that transition will be, oh, by the way, we own your house now. Oh, no, but I owned it. No, you don't. Or about your car. No, you lease that car now. So in reality, there's no money disappears and has no value now, but they own all the assets. This is the whole Great Reset thing. Yeah, you'll own nothing, but you'll be happy.
Mm.
Yeah, and whenever someone tells you, don't worry, you don't need to own it. You're going to be hilariously happy when you don't own it. Ask one question: who does own it then? Well, I can guarantee that person's happier than me. And when you look at it, it's like, oh, look, the WEF and all the government agencies are going to own the assets instead on our behalf, because we can't be trusted. We need to look after the environment, and we do everything, and they're going to lock us at home to save the environment. Yeah, okay.
I do think as well, it also gets us more and more compliant as well to that.
Makes you weak. Makes you weak. It makes you sedentary.
Yeah, absolutely. I came across this thing which I wanted to just add in as well. So it's not on the agenda, and it's only a small thing, and I don't know if you've seen it on Bitcoin Twitter at all, but I think Eminem alluded to the fact that money isn't real. So he's got a new song out with Nas. So the album came out about 2-3 weeks ago. It's called King's Disease Part 2. Funnily enough, it's about gluttony and how kings die is typically from their own gluttony. So what Nas is saying is we need to wake up and obviously kind of, feed ourselves as opposed to indulging in ourselves. But the lyric that I caught on is Eminem says, I got no L's like Christmas. You don't want to make the claws come out. Y'all should call yourself Santa. Why? Because none of y'all are real. Not a single one. Like what? Like a dollar bill. And I was just like, is he actually saying, nothing is real like Santa Claus or like a dollar bill? Now, classic Eminem, he's disguised it in lyrics and it sounds all good, but does it mean that Eminem is a Bitcoiner? Which is where I was going.
maybe he's into Dogecoin.
So he had the NFT stuff, but is he secretly saying, yeah, like, I don't believe in any of this, and therefore I'm just going to ask, have you seen any rumblings around that, or should we start the rumblings?
I haven't seen anything around Eminem specifically, but I think there's been a few rappers and a few. Was it Busta Rhymes?
Yeah, he had a run.
He came into Bitcoin first, and unfortunately, then started shitcoining. That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
they always go down that path. Yeah,
I thought he was just Bitcoin.
He was, but then recently he asked about shitcoin, and then later he asked about NFTs. So yeah, he's getting tempted by the easy money.
I was going to say maybe he's just asking. Everyone just needs to tell him to stop being an idiot.
Oh, we did.
Don't worry. Yeah.
He may have heard.
Does that bring us on to back onto topic? Bring us on to the NFT. So was it the a 12-year-old has made $400,000 selling NFTs?
Yeah.
Or as Mr. All-In has called it, JPEGs. I looked at these JPEGs. And there was Minecraft ones. So there's the whales and there's Minecraft head and shoulders, and literally it's block graphics. There must be about 400 squares per image. Literally, I could do that. And when I draw something, it looks like someone with problems has just scrawled somewhere. Like, I'm not a good drawer, but I looked at these and thought, I can make money out of that. And it makes no sense, does it? Like, it starts off Benjamin Ahmed or Benjamin Ahmed isn't your average 12-year-old. My comment is I disagree. Everyone else is stupid. If people are actually buying this, they are generally stupid. If it's money laundering, but I still think they're stupid because it's so obvious.
Yeah. Well, the fact is, what the weirdest thing is that I did think a lot of this was money laundering, where it was like, say me and you wanted to exchange $1 million. I can just create a JPEG and then you buy it off me for the $1 million. Like, that is a good way of laundering money, and it gets outside the banking system. And we can, if the police ever ask, like, where did I get my $1 million from? I can say, I bought a JPEG, or I sold a JPEG to you and you bought it for $1 million. And what, officer? But the fact is, this kid clearly is not in that world. But here's these JPEGs, and he has genuinely made 400,000 fucking pounds off JPEGs.
But here's the point: is you've got different levels of this. So you've got people who are using it for money laundering, and then you've got people who are just caught in the kind of excitement behind it. So I think that's where he may sit. But there's always people going, people are buying NFTs for like, 2 million. I'm going to buy this one for like 10 grand because I think it's a good investment because what's happening elsewhere in the market. Because if you think about the comparison is art. So the whole point of art is you are buying someone's art who's famous, who's a renowned artist, who has spent years studying their art, well, not art, but their craft. And so that's the whole point. But then as Saifuddin Amus points out, that people are just buying things which people slosh something together for 10 minutes and then sell it for 4 million. And that's your example for money laundering. Pictures are renowned for moving across the world as part of, payments for either money owed, which they don't want to pay tax on, or to do drugs. That's generally what art is used for now, and where you've got so much valued, useless stuff. And I think this is just the kind of excitement sitting behind the bigger deals, which are being used for money laundering.
Yeah. Well, funny enough, I've just finished watching the Cocaine Cowboys on Netflix. You guys seen that?
No, I've seen like it advertised because I still haven't quite finished Narcos, but it's come up as a suggestion. So
yeah, definitely recommend it. And there's actually 2 Cocaine Cowboys films. So one in 2006, where the people that were alleged to be like the first people, they were using planes, whereas these guys were more using high-powered speedboats as well. So I'm going to go back to the 2006 one after having watched it years and years ago, and then watching the new ones, and then try to cross-reference the two.
So is it a documentary or is it a series?
Yeah, it's a documentary. So it's a documentary with the real people involved, and obviously without spoiling it, it'll talk to you about everything that they did and then where they are now and everything about them over the course of, I think it's 5 episodes. But ultimately, there was lots of money laundering in it, and where they were getting this cash from when they didn't have a job. Could they be selling in this modern age NFTs and therefore saying, "Well, I got my money through selling digital art"? How are you going to prove it?
I think, guys, you should experiment on this. link it to some shit coin like Ethereum, and make like a slash out of trolls. They were big in the 90s, weren't they? You know, things with a big load of hair.
Yeah, with the big hair. Yeah.
So go and make some. So I'm sure you can do that in your free time.
Just make memes of us.
Yeah.
just make memes from the podcast in a digital art form.
But if you make a special edition, 12 NFT trolls in your free time between Twitter and OnlyFans, and see if you can sell them for Ethereum, and just copy what this kid did, because I'd be really interested to see if you can succeed.
Yeah.
It seems weird because another way I've realized it is just an out and out scam, some of it, because I think a lot of what the NFTs have done is that the money that's buying one NFT then ends up buying another NFT and then another one. Like the money's rotating round. So what it seems to be doing is there's some huge ETH holders that have just hundreds of thousands of ETH, right? They are billionaires. And what they've done, I think they are providing a lot of liquidity and they are pumping the price of these things, because what they've done quite well in this NFT world, even though there was no scarcity whatsoever, they were making fake scarcity. And they're going, oh, there's only 100 whales. There's 12 trolls. And it's the punks. There's 10,000 punks, and people have gone crazy for these crypto punk things. And what seems to be happening is that very rich ETH holders are buying these things for like $10,000 and then buying them for like 20,000 and then selling them for something else and then buying it back for 50,000, then selling it, and someone buys it back for 100,000. And it's the same money being rotated round and round and round, but it creates this false market. And suddenly what ends up happening is some dumb money comes in, because the smart money is not going anywhere. It's just being passed around by the same like 10 people. The dumb money comes in and suddenly a real person ends up buying a JPEG for 50 grand, 100 grand. And now that's real money in the system. And I think it was a famous basketball player. What's his name? I can't remember his name now. But he bought. No, it wasn't Shaq. It was the smaller guy. He's still playing.
Is it? No, he's Kobe.
Oh, Steph Curry. Yeah, Steph Curry. Yeah.
Steph Curry bought one of the remaining crypto punks, and I think it cost him $3 million.
Oh,
$3 million for a JPEG, and that's obviously real money. And he changed his profile picture on Twitter to this crypto punk, and I don't blame him. Like, that's the most expensive profile picture in the world. But this is just nuts, and I think he's being tricked into it, because there's people who have bidded these crypto punks up, and it's the same money sloshing around. So they've got to $1 million a crypto punk now, and he's come in and bought one for $3 million, because people want to get a crypto punk. The genius about crypto punks is
and then they just reallocate the money to themselves, and then they've brought in $3 million for him.
Exactly. Yeah, his money's real money, but like the rest of their billions are just rotating around.
So it's literally just this little face, which looks like it's from Amiga in 1990.
Well, I've just read. So he paid $180,000 for a tweed-wearing Bored Ape NFT.
Oh, he got a Bored Ape, did he? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Bored Ape. Yeah.
There it is.
He bought it. Yeah.
So go on, guys. There's your challenge. Create some NFTs. Try and sell them.
I don't want to scam. This is what people were telling me. My mates were telling me in 2017, create a coin, pretend it's going to save the world, and then you'll raise loads of money. I'm like, I know I could, but I don't want to scam. I don't want to create no JPEGs.
Do it and donate it to someone like El Salvador or wherever.
I
Go
just
on.
can't do it. I can't.
And then you can announce it like these people who bought it listed are morons.
Because weirdly, actually, one of my businesses back when I was 21, I had a website called Poker Sharks, and I created a load of little cartoon characters for that. I could NFT those characters. So actually, I've already got my JPEGs. I had 10 different poker sharks that started as a baby and grew up to old age. That's it. I have a selection of about 100 different JPEGs of poker sharks.
It's like your Captain Planet kind of characters.
Yeah. So that would be my NFT collection. It'd be called Poker Sharks.
I'm just finding Stephen Curry's.
I might do it then. I might do it. I might create NFT Poker Sharks, just throw it up there, see what happens.
Or just do it and then say these people are some morons, but I'm going to give them their money back.
Yeah, don't be so stupid.
But just do it as a point.
Yeah. Imagine if Steph Curry came in and bought one for 180 grand there. I'd be like, oh, giving that back.
But that's how they get you, because that's the thing, isn't it? You would be like, oh, and then it would corrupt you, because I get where you're coming from, right? It's easier not to do it, to stay away from it, because then you won't be tempted, because everybody is corruptible. Not saying that, but therefore you say, look, I don't want to put myself in that position to then have to, be tempted.
What about you agree that you do it and then you give all the money to charity, whatever, some good charity?
It's hard to give 3 million back when it's in your account.
True. I'm looking at this
experiment. If I can find the JPEGs, I'll experiment, and then I'll do something good with the money. I'll do an El Salvador thing or something. Yeah.
So Bored Ape, I'm looking at the picture, and it's actually
they're decent.
It's quite decent. I wouldn't say no to a print of that. That kind of thing. So I think it's quite funky. Whereas the whales, that 12-year-old, are shit.
Yeah, and the elite one. If you type in CryptoPunks. They're similar to Bored Apes, but they're humans, but it's all pixelated. It's the same pixel faces, and they are literally going for millions of dollars.
Yeah, because I looked at those and thought they're from like literally 1990 on the Amiga or the SNES or something. That's literally...
Yeah.
It's crap. Do we want to move on to the other NFT story, which is a guy proposes with an NFT? So there's a whole thread on... It looked like Reddit, but it's not Rare Edit. What on earth?
Yeah, Rare.
Yeah, basically it's Reddit, but like it's a copy of it. It's just been pasted in because the Reddit links keep disappearing, don't they? So
when people delete them because they're a moron. So this looks like on relationships. So where obviously people go and ask random people on the internet about their relationship. Was it written by him or her? I can't quite remember.
Him, yeah.
So he proposed to his girlfriend rather than buying a ring. So actually some backstory. He invested in Dogecoin, made some money, lost money, invested in some stocks, made some money back, lost money. So basically he's impulsive. You've already got the background on him. And then he goes to propose to his girlfriend. So instead of buying a ring, he finds this JPEG or NFT of a house. And he's like, we'll be able to sell this for £1 million in the future, which is his reason why we should buy it. And so he proposes to his girlfriend. She says no. And I was just like, what is wrong with this person? That is literally a fear mindset in a cyber world. Like it is literally, I will waste my money on useless. So my comments were, he deserves to be dumped. He is a fucktard. She should get with Chad. But yeah, it just seems ludicrous that people actually think, this is gambling. It's not. I understand that Bitcoin there is an element of gambling because it's about adoption. I think it's a perfect financial system, which is why I'm invested. But for an NFT, why? It's not art. It's literally it's a right click, as Gaz keeps on saying. Whereas art, you can look at some art and think these are the hours which this person spent practicing to make this unique piece of art for you, and this is the original. That's why you spend money on art and also money laundering. But NFT is literally, you can copy it as many times as you want. There's no original on an NFT apart from a digital signature, which means nothing.
I'm still to be proven. Yeah, like I don't get it. I can't get my head around it. why it's just not a copy paste.
Yeah. And then this guy is the classic Reddit degen, isn't he? He starts in Dogecoin, loses money. He said stocks. I can guarantee it was GameStop in AMC.
It wasn't stocks, it was stonks.
Stonks. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And now he's just gone into the next thing, which is NFTs. And if he's buying now, he's buying it probably the top. So it's only going to come down. And when these things like Dogecoin, meme stocks, and then NFTs, when they come down, they don't come down 50%. They don't come down 80%. These things come down 99%. And that is brutal, right? You lose fucking everything. Like from a 100,000 type investment, you end up with a couple of $100 left. It is devastating, the kind of losses that you make on these types of things.
So what you're saying is he deserves to be dumped and she should get with Chad.
Exactly. If anything, I am amazed he even had a fiance or had a girlfriend at the first place to even think to propose to with. And by the way, it's with the NFT, isn't it? Instead of an engagement ring, he somehow proposed with the NFT. I don't know if it was like on his phone or something. He's like, "Will you marry me?" with the phone up or something, with a picture of a fucking whale on it. I don't know, but yeah.
I think it was a house, wasn't it, or something like that?
It was actually a house NFT. I only heard of those ones, but yeah.
And he reckons it would sell for $1 million, but it's a person who, rather than investing, say, intelligently, like property shares, the S&P or whatever, he's just gone, I'm going to go for the get rich quick. So I'm going to put a load of money into something which is not guaranteed. Yeah. He might as well do a football accumulator, and we know how many of those come in.
Yeah,
it's really sad, I think, because what he's done he's so close to being right, because just holding your money and doing nothing is also dumb. So he hasn't done that. He has made a decision and he's being active. And the fact that he found Dogecoin probably means he found Bitcoin first, but then he thought it was late and he's gone off on that. And he's got wrecked on a shit coin and he's gone, oh, okay, maybe stocks are a little bit more sensible, which to a certain extent, he's like, well, you're right. They are a bit more stable. So great. Go and find a nice, stable S&P 500. No, he's gone to the fucking shit coins down the bottom.
And you know why?
Penny stocks.
Yes, because he's impulsive and a high time preference, no ability to actually use his brain to engage.
Or actually spend the time looking.
Yep. Spend the time looking, thinking, and actually just reflecting on what is going to happen. I'm sure it's probably taken him a while to build up that money in terms of whatever savings that he had. And then just to go and blow it, it's just, you can see it happening all day, every day, can't you?
Yeah.
And the fact as well that he's done it, knowing that he's with a person that doesn't have that investor's mindset, but then expecting her to be won over by this digital picture of a house. Clearly, again, I always say this isn't that type of podcast, but if we want to go into a relationship podcast, dude, you're not going to be winning any prizes by doing this.
Relationship advice is get with Chad.
Yeah. I'm surprised Chad doesn't already have a queue of women beating down his door.
Oh, I think they probably, Chads always have.
Yeah.
But it's just a sad story, isn't it? It's like, I do think I think you're spot on with the whole time preference thing. I think that is it. And I think with the young, and I must admit, I think that the young are pressured as well, because I think they get it. I think they get the inflation thing. And I think they get the fact that I'm never going to get a house legitimately. My wages are so low. My debt from education is so high. I need
to take a gamble.
I need a fucking.
I need a gamble.
Lottery win, right? I'm earning such little money after rent and bills that if I just get 10, 20, 30% gains a year, I'm going to be skint all my whole life, because I don't have a starting stack. I need to get a starting stack. So I've got $1,000. I need to turn it into 100,000, and I want to do it the next couple of years. So I think they're finding Bitcoin, they're finding the Amazon, the Teslas, and the Apples of this world, and they know they're safe bets. They know they'll probably go up by 10 to 50 to 100% a year, but that's not enough. That's only going to turn my $1,000 into 2,000. And I know by this time next year, $2,000 is worth about the same as $1,000. So shit, I'm not actually getting ahead. So they're going, fuck it, I'll YOLO in with my internet friends, and unfortunately getting wrecked. But again, I do feel really, really sorry. If I was 18 right now, or say even worse, 21, coming out with 300 grand worth of debt, I do sympathize with their desperation. And I understand why they are trying to YOLO into things, because their financial situation has never been worse.
Because admittedly, 15 years ago, when we're kind of coming to the same situation, well, what was your calculation for inflation? It was basically half.
Yeah, every 15 years, the money halves. Yeah, so they're doubly worse than we were.
So whilst I think we had a bit of a torrid time to get started on everything, you know, wages weren't particularly high, costs were high. It's only got a lot worse.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
I do think as well the peer group pressure, because I'm sure a lot of them are in the same situation. So if they see their friends doing it, they're like, well, you know, Brad down the road's done it, such and such has done it, I may as well do it too. And we'll all be in the same boat together. Yeah. So, and what I mean by that is, you know, if he's broke, I'm broke. So, but you know, so what?
Yeah.
If he can live like that, I can live like that. He's got debt, I've got debt. Same as when you're at university. Oh, well, we're all in debt together and we've all got this uni debt. So what does it matter? You're not going to get any further ahead than I am. So cool, I'll do it. As opposed to being the other one.
They should go and live in the woods.
And the problem is the woods are only good once you get in your 40s and 50s and you're like, you know what your shit's doing. When you're in your 20s, you don't want to go to woods then. You want to go shag birds and drive fast cars and have nice holidays. So,
whereas now you just want people to leave you alone.
Yeah, you get older grumpy. You want to just take your missus and your kids and you go off into the woods and you go fucking get a shotgun. And anyone comes up the driveway, you fucking fire a warning shot at them. But when you're in your 20s, you want to go out and party and have a good time. And unfortunately, it's all the memes, isn't it? As well, it's all these things are memes. So memes are just huge in the young culture. So if you go on to TikTok and all that stuff, all the TikTokers are memeing Dogecoin, they're memeing the meme stocks, they're memeing NFTs, and also they're lying as well, and they're scamming them and saying how much money can be made. And they're the influencers that they're following, they're not reading books, they're watching a 14-second TikTok where there's some guy that is paid or probably owns, say, 99 of the 200 NFTs. He owns them, and he's going, you can make 10 grand in 3 days by buying an NFT and flipping it, And in reality, all you're doing is buying his crap NFTs and he's dumping them on you and you're going to get wrecked. And so I think they're just naive. And it's a problem that there's sharks everywhere, there's scammers everywhere. And then that world will always be there. Even on a Bitcoin standard, there's going to be scammers and sharks trying to get your sats. Like, do not, just because government doesn't exist does not mean people are nice. Like, they will still try and scam you. And that's essentially what's happening to the young generation right now. They're being born into a system of just being leveraged with debt, and then they're desperate. And what desperate people are easy to scam. So the scammers are then drifting around, and then the few $1,000s they have, they're sucking it up. And it's like, oh, it's just tragic, because if they just had good advice, they would just be more sensible. Go and get a fiat job. Don't get too much debt, and just start stacking sats. It's boring.
And go and live in the woods.
In 5 years, but it's gonna work. It'll pan out in the end, but that isn't what they want to hear.
It is a bit terrifying times. I mean, obviously we're waiting to see what plays out for hopefully a fairer world. But I think the next 5 years are going to be very, very interesting at this rate. Things they're speeding up at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, 100%. So from going from because it's maybe a nice segue, from going from those that might not be as intelligent as a brown paper bag, going to the yuppie elites as well. So I came across this as Croesus is the Greek god that created money 2,500 years ago. So a person takes on that handle. And he came up with an article called Bitcoin and why it doesn't really appeal to the yuppie elite. So the background to this is that he found Bitcoin, a guy found Bitcoin, and he tried to talk to his really well-educated friends that were in higher social circles. And every time that he tried to do so, they would just dismiss it completely. So then he came up with a quadrant of people, and he put those yuppie elite in the top right-hand side to say, they effectively just dismissed it because they didn't understand it, because they couldn't apply anything to it because of the trust that they had in the current system. So did you guys take a look at it and your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think the word yuppies again and again, I'm like, is this the 1980s? You just get to make me think that, like, I thought the terminology. But I mean, he made the point in a couple of different ways. So he talked about correlating IQ to Bitcoin. So you got the rich people who believe it will moon versus the yuppies. So I think on different quadrants on the trust in the system.
The moon boys.
But then he raised a really good point. So I quite like this one. Bitcoin's surface layer provides it with subtle camouflage. The first hour or two of learning about Bitcoin triggers a multitude of scam red flags. And for me, that's particularly true because I didn't get it. I kind of thought it's some magic internet money, just as everyone else does. But it's once you read past that, and the story, sorry, not the story, the book, which always hark back to the Bitcoin standard, is that it takes you away from Bitcoin initially. It talks about the history of money and actually gets you a comprehensive understanding of the flaws of fiat, and then brings in Bitcoin as a potential solution. And I think that's where people need to be, is they need to invest the time into finding about money, to lose that trust in the system, to then build up in order to find a solution. And I think too many people have got a trust in a system which in reality they know is fundamentally flawed.
Yeah. I think there's an arrogance that goes along with it as well, because whilst they trust it, they also then never want to be kind of found out to be wrong. So if someone then does go, that thing that you believe in, look at this doesn't look like it's right, they instantly want to reject it, because the fact that I trust it and it's now fundamentally you're showing me a flaw in it makes me look a little bit stupid. And I think that's the whole, like, goes with the term yuppie. And because it's just I need to be right, I need to be flash, I need to look good, I need to look like I'm in the know, I'm ahead of you. There's nothing you can tell me that I don't already know. So when you tell me something that really does shatter the foundation of my beliefs, which is, the financial system is a crock of shit and it's all built on lies.
Or that I've not been the first to already uncover this and tell you as well. Who are you to tell me something new?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, and fundamentally, that whole article, really, it's a better explanation of that meme, which the meme's in the article, which is low IQ people. It says Bitcoin at 250K. They get it. High IQ people, Bitcoin at 250K. I get it. So the stupid get it because they haven't thought about it. They're just like moon boys, yellowing in, like, yay. Like, so stupid people get it and they end up getting rich. And it's like a little bit frustrating. High IQ people get it because they actually understand the history of money and why Bitcoin's going to win. But middle IQ people just reject it because they have enough intelligence to go, I understand the risk, but not enough intelligence to go, but this risk is worthwhile. So they sit in this horrible middle ground of rejecting everything that comes their way that is not the system, that isn't spoon-fed to them, because they're not smart enough to think for themselves, but they're smart enough to be able to assess scams and risks. Yes. Whereas the real stupid people, someone knocks on their door and go, I've got a timeshare to sell you. They're like, okay, where do I sign? And it's like, they'll get ripped off, but occasionally they make the right call. And sometimes those people end up with Bitcoin or Doge or an NFT at the right time and become a millionaire. It's like, no, but that's a fluke. They did no thinking. They yellowed into the first thing they saw on the internet. Like, that could easily be a scam, but today it wasn't, or it was a scam, but they actually managed to get out and make a profit. Like, congrats. But really what you want to be is you want to be on the right end of the bell curve, which is the people that think about stuff properly and make sensible decisions. I think there's just a huge amount of people 80% really. This is what I've said before. There's 10% stupid people that get lucky. There's 10% smart people who don't get lucky. They just actually think it through. There's 80% in the middle that largely their decision is to do nothing. And they think that is low risk. But in reality, you are making a decision. Doing nothing is a decision. Not buying an asset is a decision.
But you've been fed that propaganda for your whole life.
Yeah.
I think it's quite hard to come out of it because, personally, I found it quite hard to actually see that, and it wasn't until...
I still find it hard. I still want to go back.
I still want to be plugged back in the Matrix.
You swallowed that orange pill now. Once you've swallowed it, you can't go back.
Oh, I can. Cypher almost did. So I can.
I know, you have to have a brain. You have to be lobotomized.
I do think when he talks about the red flags and the scams, no one wants to be scammed, and so you're always thinking, okay, well, what's the out in this, and what, show me the trick. How does this magic internet money actually work? And I kind of, when I was reading the article, I was thinking about myself, and as I always say, I'm always thinking, why does this Bitcoin thing not work as opposed to it working all the time, every week, every damn article, every video I'm watching? I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get you this time, Bitcoin. You're going to show your true colors. Can't find it. I can't accept it, but I'm doing it.
I think it's literally just down to adoption for me. That's the only hurdle there is. And at the moment, the way which the world's going is it's pushing the adoption by the whole amount of actions going on at the moment.
Yeah. But the adoption is slow, I guess, because, again, people have to use their own brain to adopt it. Mainstream media are definitely not going to push it. And it's a classic. It's right in front of your eyes. Big companies like Tesla, obviously Jack Dorsey and Twitter linking it to Square. It's all there happening. PayPal as well.
Just Chad Saylor.
Yeah. If you're
looking... Giga Chad.
Yeah. All the signs are there showing you, oh, actually, these things are happening right now. And you either choose to adopt it or ignore it.
But say, as an example, because you've said that basically you used me as your level, so I'm ultimately cautious. Yeah. So if I hadn't
jumped up to 10% is more than 10%. We know this.
But yeah, I'm still trying to be balanced still, but it is quite hard to control myself at the moment.
Let's just go back to I will never forget. I will never be more than 10%. Never be more.
It's always going to be a lie, because if you're 10% now, when Bitcoin doubles, it's 20 now. So
yeah,
but this was investment stakes, because
you're going to have to.
Once it grows, that's still your investment, right? So if you're in,
I mean my initial stake, how much you're willing to put in, because something can grow. So like shares or whatever, and you'll be like, yeah, it's a good investment, I'll stay in it. But something which you're actually willing to stake out of your total wealth, I think is a different wedge.
Yeah. It's just after a while though, like no matter how much you put in, the amount it is now, you have to count that percentage, don't you? It's like, there's like a certain amount of sunk cost, but if that 10k say grows to 100, you can't just count it as a 10 still. It's 100, right? So if that is 50,
definitely,
it's 50% of your wealth.
But I suppose it's my way of going, if it grows to be millions and it's the majority of my wealth, and you're talking like 99%, but I'll still be like, I was willing to stake 10%, but
unless you take that money out and the gains out and then put it into something else and leave Bitcoin still at 10% and put the rest of that money into something else, or even if it was like cash or property, but you're only 10% in Bitcoin.
But what I was trying to say is I put more than just 10%, because of my belief in Bitcoin, and that's my initial stake, not the grown stake. And that's because of what I understood and what I was willing to put in. But I was actually trying to get to a point with Darnell. So if I hadn't gone in on Bitcoin, what would you have done? So we're talking about people, finding out the IQ, the problems and so on. what would you have done if I hadn't started going in on Bitcoin and talking about it?
Yeah, I would have got there because I was there in terms of like you, the Bitcoin standard. Reading it was just like, oh my gosh,
But
why
that was
didn't I
after,
have this?
but that was after I said read the Bitcoin standard. He said I don't need to know about Bitcoin. I said just read it because you'll learn something.
Yeah, that our good friend Mr. All-In as well was there, and Bitcoin lessons as well. Genuinely, like reading and looking through Bitcoin lessons, I was just like, okay, I get this. And prior to that, of course, we were both in it anyway, but there wasn't enough information at that time to really push me over the edge to kind of go all in. And I just think with time and accessibility, I managed to finally get there.
Yeah, so you were hedging your bets with property ultimately.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I always love as well. I wasn't trying to go out and buy a new flash car or anything like that. I was putting it into hard assets still. So when I didn't necessarily get crypto at the outset, I was just like, okay, cool. I'll go to the best thing that has been a proven vehicle to make millionaires, and went into property. And I still like property, but I like Bitcoin as well.
I think, like I said, I do think Bitcoin, it's like when you're marketing someone to try and make them buy a product. On average, you need to get the product in front of someone 12 times before they click buy. And I think with Bitcoin, it is the same thing. I think both of you were on the same path. And so you were getting hit by Bitcoin quite a bit, probably over the years, but you hadn't been convinced yet. You hadn't been really going, I get it, and I'm going to start genuinely learning about this now, not just from a cursory point of view and put a token amount of money in, which is just a bit, basically you're just YOLOing. That's a bit of the Reddit degen in you, really. You're just gambling a little bit of money that you don't mind if it goes to zero. That was your mentality, because you didn't get it. You didn't get it. Even though you just probably like largely just going, oh, Gaz is in it, sod it, I'll just put 100 quid in and see what happens. But eventually over the years, something clicked. And I think for you, like the final click was Ross buying. And it was just, if Ross had bought 3 years ago,
it's just like, fucking hell, Ross.
Yeah.
If Ross had
bought 3 years ago, it might not have been enough for you. You might have just thought Ross has lost his mind because you weren't there yet. It's one of them. It's just it just so happened that you were so close to being there anyway. And then Ross bought you like, right, fuck it, I'm in.
I'm all in. I've got to go. If Ross has done his due diligence on anything, then you need to be in it, which is, for anybody listening out there, Dr. 10% is the barometer for you to be in Bitcoin. Because if you're not, then you're way behind. It's not too late, but you're behind.
We had a chain reaction with you and Mark, because Mark obviously got in at the end. And there was also someone in work who I think was watching my tweets and my likes and so on. And he bought in as well. Yeah. So it is weird that people use me as a barometer. I'm just like, come on. Quite a lot of people think I'm quite stupid.
More cautious. Yeah. It's more the cautious.
You should not stupid. Genuinely, you should have a newsletter. Charge like $10 a month for it, and just on most months there's nothing in it. Like it just goes, everything's too risky. But then occasionally, one month you're like, I'm buying Bitcoin, and that is like, it's the signal. If Ross is in, fucking get in.
Yeah,
this is now safe.
I think there's 100 points of things that you could talk about that you said, I've thought about this and I've decided no. Yeah. Literally, you could say no, and go through a list of points where you've thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get out of that.
That is true, because I haven't got much cash, and instead of cash, I've got Amazon stock. So similar to Gaz, I've got cash for a rainy day. But I'm kind of going, well, you don't want too much cash sitting on the side, so I want easy to access stock. But then obviously you always take the risk of it going downhill. But then again, over a 5-year average, it will come back up. So I suppose that's one thing which I looked at alongside Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I do still find it funny, but basically you used me and you went.
I know. Basically, my reputation's just known as I'm just a gambler. So I'm not a strong enough person to be like, oh, I mean, I know I'm a bit of an edge case, so people don't tend to follow that because it's like Gaz is doing his thing. Like he's going to be reckless. He might be a millionaire tomorrow, or he could be wrecked. We don't really know. Whereas Ross, you're Mr. Safe, and it's like,
yeah,
he's going to grow his wealth nice and steady. He's never going to get wrecked. So if he's in, then it must be like, well, Gaz is saying it's going to go to the moon. Plus Ross is in. That's a great combo.
yeah. But also as well, it's having the humility to sit back, and I think it was when your brother was on as well, to think, right, since when we sat down and we spoke and you said, yeah, I'm out the game. And then thinking, okay, hold on, he's fully out the game. It's been a few years, he's out the game. I need to look into this more. And, again, it was just from an admiration perspective of, okay, he's done it. I need to pay more attention to this. And everybody else could easily pay more attention to it, because I think, why don't my friends talk to me more about, okay, I've had multiple promotions and work, or I'm doing the property thing in the side, I'm doing the Bitcoin thing as well. Like, rather than just kind of sit on the sidelines, like, hit me up, call me, come round, let's have a coffee, let's chat about it. And that's where I kind of look to myself to think, well, I did that. Say, what do you do next? Talk to me about the ledger. Talk to me about this. It's literally a firing questions one by one, but slowly but surely. And I think more people should just have that. And it's weird, I find, that people will happily trust a stranger that says go and buy an NFT than somebody close to them.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, like my friends probably see me as a sensible one again. I've been on at them for last year, buy Bitcoin, look into Bitcoin. And then one of the comments was, I can't afford a Bitcoin. Yeah. Well, that's all right. You can buy sats. So, I think that's opened his eyes, because he is someone who has a massive distrust in the system. And I'm kind of like just pushing little bits every now and then in. So I think he might take note soon. But yeah.
This made me look into as well, how much Bitcoin people will need as well. Because to your point, everybody thinks you need that whole coin. And great, it's fantastic to be in the whole coin crew and to get onto that, kind of rung of the ladder from being a complete minnow. But it's the 0.28 according to the stock to flow model, and that's all you need, 0.28 Bitcoin to be in the top percentile if everybody was to adopt Bitcoin, or the 1 billion people to adopt Bitcoin.
Yeah, and so that's still that's a huge amount, because that's 28 million sats. That would be and in reality, if you divide the amount of Bitcoin that's out there, so the 21 million by the 8 billion people, it's less than 200,000 sats each.
Yep.
So once you get over 200,000 sats, you're now got more than your fair share. So what a million sats right now in dollars, it's $500 for a million sats. So straight away there, you are huge. You're 5 times your allocation if you get $500 in. And then everything above that is just, because we're early. You're still so early. So anyone that puts in, so in pounds, that would be about 300 quid, 350 pounds. You put that in, get a million sats, and you're flying. 200,000 is your allocation. You've already got a million. You're so early still, because that is a low amount of money. Everyone thinks they want to get a coin.
Yeah.
At the moment, I would probably almost say that a coin is by and large never going to be within your reach now for the average person. Aim for 0.1. If you get to 0.1, you're flying, because soon that's going to be out of your reach as well. Because when a 10x again, a 0.1 is going to be worth 35k. So, and that's
when you say about, so you think about the 10x. So the 10x puts it into the realm of gold. So that's your store of wealth, isn't it? So thinking about Bitcoin, people aren't really investing in gold. Like we're seeing all the stocks go up, and we're seeing gold, it's gone down.
Yeah.
So I think the way to look at it is Bitcoin. I think there are people moving across, and that's why you should use it as a store of value. Obviously, it's going to be a bit volatile, but if you hold it over a significant amount of time, then that's when it evens out.
Yeah, gold over the last 10 years has gone down 1%. That's how bad it is. So not only is it not held its value, because gold to hold its value has to go up by about 5% a year. So over that last 10 years, really gold should have roughly doubled in price to essentially be a store of value, because being a store of value means keep up with inflation. It doesn't mean stay the same price, because cash stays the same price, right? Keep £10,000 in the account, in your bank account 10 years ago, it would still be $10,000 now, but we know it isn't. We know it's roughly now got the spending power of 5,000. So the fact that gold has not only not even kept up with inflation, it's gone down by 1% over the last 10 years. Clearly, and a lot of that has happened. And well, the thing is, like, what happened 12 years ago? Bitcoin came out. So already the people that are buying gold, they've already flipped. The boomers are still buying some gold, but a lot of the new money, I think the people that would be buying more gold over the last 10 years have chosen, you know what, I'm going to diversify into this Bitcoin thing. And yeah, the $1 trillion that gold should have gone up by, it's sat in Bitcoin. It's so fucking obvious. Yeah. So, and eventually it's going to suck the other 10 trillion that is in gold. It's going to go into Bitcoin, and that's our next 10x.
So here you go. Looking on the 27th of July, which was the peak of 2020, obviously as a reaction, it's $65,477 per kilogram. And today we are down to 58. So that is over the last year. It's gone down by 7 grams per kilogram in dollars. Yeah. You know, this is a point when there is so much monopoly money floating around, but you know, if it's a sound product, or rather one which is believed in, it should have gone up. But the fact that it's gone down is actually quite a worrying thing.
Yeah, well, Bitcoin's 10x, and gold went down by 10% in the last year. So it's very clear that when this is gold's time. This is exactly when gold should win. And unfortunately, they would have won if Satoshi didn't exist. But Satoshi does exist. He created a better product. He built Gold 2.0. So this is gonna be the whole bell curve thing again for the gold holders, right? You got the stupid people thinking Bitcoin's going to go to 1 million and they'll YOLO out and get lucky. You got the intelligent people that will convert, and you got that horrible middle section of the Peter Schiffs of the world that were intelligent enough to be themselves, and they refuse to fucking change their mind. They are so close. They are intelligent people, but they're not quite intelligent or humble enough to admit they're currently on the wrong side of the debate, and they just need to accept a little bit of new information, and then they flip to the good side, which is the higher IQ, and you get it now, and they would sell some of their gold and buy Bitcoin.
I know you class it as IQ, but I think it's down to humility.
Yeah.
So
humility.
You know, we're talking about this, and like both Don and myself YOLO'd in 3-4 years ago, discounted it for fucking mad gas. He was lucky, blah blah blah, and then 3 years later, here we are. Well, 3 years later, we start putting in. So I think that's actually humility. Actually, the ability to admit your mistakes, because plenty of people are smarter than me, and they won't admit their mistakes. So they're stuck. Peter Schiff, probably no doubt he's smarter than me, but he's not willing to admit his mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, my mistake is not YOLOing in more in those 3 years before, and just thinking.
If Gaz, I blame Gaz on this. If Gaz has said to me, read the Bitcoin Standard, and I was like, oh, he said, just read about it. It'll teach you about money. And I read it. I would have YOLO'd in earlier. So I blame Gaz.
Yeah, I blame him. He didn't give enough of a warning to be like, get on this.
Don't make me screenshot.
Shake you, like literally, like get on this.
Screenshot all the messages again. Like, I've gone through this. I went back to 2016 and I read my messages. And I went, was I a bit of a moon boy, just Lambo, fucking going to the moon? No, I actually broke it down for you. I actually fucking talked about inflation. I talked about the history of money. I did mention the Bitcoin standard. I had photos in there of my Bitcoin standard signed by fucking Saifedean Moose in 2017. And I was like, this is my favorite book. And you're like, geek, nerd. I'm like, well, fuck off then. You know,
Saifedean at that point was nobody to me, though.
Yeah, exactly. He wasn't my idol.
Yeah.
I'd be interested in seeing those screenshots on what you exactly said.
I can go back and do it again if you want, but like, yeah, I was quite proud of myself, I must admit, because I didn't think, I don't know, maybe I think when you look back, you slightly look back with rose-tinted spectacles and you think, oh yeah, I got this like in 2016 or something. But then when I look back and actually looked at what I said to you guys in 2016, I'm like, no, I'm explaining Bitcoin quite well here.
I'd be interested to have a look just to see what you actually said, because I just don't think I had the general understanding because I didn't have the trigger point. The trigger point was the start of the pandemic for me, in that this just isn't how economy works.
Yeah, and the problem was, it was like it became a meme in our group that every time like we were talking about investments, you would know what I was going to say. I was like, I will analyze like you guys would come into the group with a thing, and nearly every single time my analysis would be, I quite like it or I don't like it, but in reality, just buy Bitcoin. And you're like, I know, and all of you would be like, look, guys, I know you're going to say just buy Bitcoin, but please look at this asset. I kind of want your view on it. So I would go, okay, like ignoring Bitcoin, if Bitcoin doesn't exist, would I buy this asset or not? And literally, it was a joke. It became a meme. And you guys just completely come up, like put to one side the fact that Bitcoin's a thing. You're like, shut up about Bitcoin. I don't want to hear about it anymore. So to a certain extent, I did shut up about it because you literally didn't want to hear it.
I think I'm that guy now as well in terms of like, so I'm that guy who's saying this. So I had a little get together yesterday and like someone took a picture of me and my mate. We were just chatting on in the garden. And he says, oh, what was he talking to you about crypto at the time? Like, and it was a topic that was brought up throughout the conversation as well. But it's kind of like I've turned them off.
Yeah.
And so it's like less is more.
Yeah, it's what I felt about you guys. I kind of, it's like you can bring a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, I had given you guys the information, but you hadn't chosen to pick it up and read it for yourself to convince yourself of what it was. So to a certain extent, I just had to leave you to it. And I would drop the odd article in and tell you, I give you the odd update on, say, some of my gains or something, just to try and keep it in front of your mind and just going, eventually you're going to get it, but I can't make you drink. And I don't know what the answer is because you're literally, the more I talk about it, the more I feel you pulling back. Yeah. So I need to just leave you. And then, I say, thank God for the pandemic and the money printer, because that seems to be the trigger that where you went, holy fuck, this doesn't make sense. What's that Bitcoin thing again? And then you found a load of stuff for yourself and it all just clicked. And I think that will happen for your mates, but the problem is your mates now have gone through that big trigger point and not clicked. So if they didn't click then, they need something else further down the line. So, and I must admit, I don't know what the answer is. I tried to build an app for it, but that doesn't seem to work because if you send the app to those people, they won't even use it.
Yep. I love at the end of Why the Yuppie Elite from Kroos's article. He says, in time, everyone will have to face the painful realization that their reasons for writing off Bitcoin were wrong. And that, I think, is really going to hurt because all those conversations that we are having with them and the numerous articles, they'll be like, oh, I should have listened to you.
Yeah. Well, weirdly, there was a really heartbreaking one on Twitter where there was this Afghani woman who had gone back to Afghanistan over the last couple of years. And she's a Bitcoiner, so she's quite famous. I have to link her in the show notes because she's a really good person to follow because she's got the inside scoop of what's happening in Afghanistan. And she went back and told her parents about 2 years ago, put your life savings into Bitcoin because you do not know what's going to happen. And they didn't do it. And then when they fled, they managed to get on the plane. They were two of the people that got on the plane and got to America. So they're now reunited. It's a kind of happy ending, but they don't have the life savings. Their life savings is stuck in a bank account, which is frozen by the Taliban now. It's gone. It's been seized. If they'd have converted their life savings into Bitcoin, they could have had a fresh start in America and bought a house and been okay.
Yeah.
And these people are elderly. They're in their 70s. So she's going to have to try and provide for them now. And this is the type of, and what the Afghans have seen there, that is the type of lesson they're going to learn. You know, this is, your life savings are going to get stolen from you. Convert them into Bitcoin or suffer the consequences. Right now, it's just feels a bit like a YOLO type investment thing. But every single person on the planet at some point in the next, like, I don't know, 10 to 50 years, or could be thinking next year, who knows how fast this goes, is going to be that Afghan parents who got on that plane with just the clothes they were wearing, because the money they had was in a bank account that got seized by a tyrannical government. If they'd converted to Bitcoin, they could have taken it with them.
Do you know another thing that I think is hard and difficult for people to get over, including myself on this, is the fact that it's going to happen in our lifetimes. Like, that is a real difficult one to kind of get your head around. So why is it going to happen now? Like, all the stars are aligning, and, you know, we've pointed out throughout the various different podcasts, this has occurred. We've had a pandemic. The digitization of things has been sped up because of the pandemic and stuff like that. But this 50-year landmark has just happened in terms of fiat money. We're living in it right now. So it's a privileged age to be around. You know, there's going to be a massive wealth transfer. And to accept that it's going to be, and that you're going to be a part of it, sometimes a little bit too much, maybe too overwhelming for people to actually to absorb.
Yeah, but it's like we said, so you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. It's about being humble and giving a shit. So
yeah,
you need to give a shit about all this, and you need to be a little bit awake, and then you need to be humble enough to accept that probably a lot of the things that you believe is bullshit, and be open-minded enough to go, okay, if it is bullshit, what is the truth? And then that'll lead to Bitcoin. But
I was just having a dig through July 2018, but I don't know when the earliest conversation would be for. It's when I found one from you, just buy Bitcoin. It could go crazy.
No, that's not a good one. Yeah, okay.
I couldn't find anything about inflation, so I'd be interested to see what lectures you've given us all those years ago and how I just probably ignored it.
Yeah, I'll find them for you. I'll find them. Do you want to move on? Do you want to do... there's a good story here about these Swedish drug dealers that I quite like.
Yeah.
Did you read this article?
I love Vice, by the way. It's really good.
This is, Vice, yeah. So this is a great story about some drug dealers basically got caught in Sweden, and they had about $150,000 worth of Bitcoin at the time, because they got arrested in 2019, which is a nice low point for Bitcoin. And but the police didn't sell the Bitcoin at the time, but they got fined the amount of money that they got seized. So they physically got fined like the $150,000, and then got sentenced to 2 years in prison. So then these guys kind of come out of prison, and the police haven't sold their Bitcoin, which is actually like their assets. So they actually had, what was it? Yeah, they had 36 Bitcoin. Jesus Christ, They had 36 Bitcoin, which at the time was only worth 150,000. But by the time they come out, it's worth 1.5 million. But their fine is only for 150. So they have to sell 3 of the Bitcoin to pay the debt. They come out of prison, and the police have to pay them like 1.5 million to go on their way. And it's just amazing. It's just glorious.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Literally, they did a force hodl on these guys, because these guys were probably only dealing in Bitcoin, like because they're selling drugs, right? So they were very, very likely going to be buying and selling and unlikely to hodl this Bitcoin. They probably weren't Bitcoiners. I don't know. I'm kind of projecting on them here, but I doubt they were. They were probably going to convert that into their local currency at some point. But because they got put in prison for 2 years, they got forced to hodl. Literally, the police took ownership and hodled it for them. And when they come out, they take the fine out of it and have to give them the remainder. And they end up with 33 Bitcoin to their name. It's like beautiful.
I wonder if they hodled it still. Because so when they sold it, what price was that at?
It's quite a new article, this, isn't it? Yeah,
it's quite
new. Like a week old. So
yeah.
Okay, so it's 36.
I don't think they actually gave him the Bitcoin. They gave him the dollar equivalent.
Yeah, so it's 50 grand. Yeah, so actually that's around about right. So I was just trying to work out when it was.
Yeah, I think the police had to give them the dollar equivalent, so they sold the 33 Bitcoin and then gave them the $1.5 million. But that's super weird to like bring in 2 drug dealers, basically confiscate everything you had, which is 150 grand. They put them in prison for 2 years, let them go, and have to pay them $1.5 million because they confiscated Bitcoin. And instead of denominating the fine in Bitcoin, they made the mistake. They denominated it in a shitcoin, which is so because they denominated it in the shitcoin, the hard money appreciated, and they made the mistake.
I wonder if the drug dealers have bought Bitcoin again now, and also with the police, have they actually sold that Bitcoin?
Yeah, well, I think they would have had to. I'd assume, unless they had 1.5 million knocking around.
It's a government.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'd imagine they'd have had to sell it. What they were supposed to do is auction. Well, actually, I think it does actually say they did auction it off 2 years later. Yeah, I think they did. So they did auction it off, but they auctioned it off and they said they made 1.5 million, but the fine in law was only 150K. So they had to give them the difference back.
Okay. So do we want to? So moving on from that one, do we want to talk about losing Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
So this is Reddit again. I read this one before I saw it within the notes, but it's deleted now. So it was
again,
yeah. I don't know who deleted, whether it's a mod or the actual person, when everyone just called him a moron. But from what I remember, the guy was saving money with his wife or girlfriend, and they managed to save a whole Bitcoin. So, I think he said it is a struggle. They managed to save bits here, there, and everywhere. So they're quite proud of it. And he was obviously quite greedy, high time preference, and wanted more. So he started leveraging, and he got up to 2.1 Bitcoin. So great increase. But then he lost
using
it all.
Futures, basically.
Yeah, it's not something which I fully understand.
I think it's a prediction of what the price will be, but in a given time frame. So, obviously he thought it was going to be more, but you've got to then manage the risk that it could also go down. And obviously they can make the call that if you don't have the money for when it goes down, they take that. And then sometimes you even owe a little bit as well. Or a lot.
I think he may have used a little bit of leverage, but he managed to save up, what is it? Yeah, he saved his 1 Bitcoin. Apparently, he managed to turn it into 2.1 Bitcoin, which is a great little return. With loads of DCA, bits of trading, but fundamentally, the next trade he did, he yellowed in, didn't he? 2.1 Bitcoin. You don't know whether he went long or short. He didn't really say in his little piece, but whichever way he went, the market went the other way and pop down to 0 sats.
And he also hadn't, when I read it, I don't think he'd told his girlfriend or wife.
No.
Oh, yeah. He was, I think he said she knew they had 1, but he hadn't told her it had gone up to 2. But then now he also hasn't told her it's gone down to 0. So it's just sad times, isn't it? Because this is just, I hated this story because it was just such a good story of a classic DCA guy who managed to DCA in up to got his coin. He got his coin. I don't think he earns a lot of money. He's a hardworking guy in the fiat world. DCA'd in, got his coin, but then just got lured in by the trading. And because he doubled his coin, he thought, oh, this is easy. Now I've gone from 1 coin to 2 coins, much easier. Now I want to turn my 2 coins into 10, into 20. and you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and he got wrecked. He lost it all.
I've said this before as well. I think it's difficult for people to do nothing. So it's hard. I'll always go back to sitting in traffic. You'd much rather be moving, even though it might take you a longer time to get somewhere, but you feel as though you're doing something. And maybe just DCAing is just too boring for people. DCAing, waiting, like that's my plan, by the way. And it's funny actually, I openly say to everybody what I'm doing. I'm doing property, and after this, all I'm doing afterwards is DCAing until the next halving. And I'm just gonna sit on things, watch. And so I think for everybody else, or these guys and the other guy before that we were talking about, they want to be active investors because that's what they see on the films, right? They want to get to the fast things quickly.
Yeah, that almost feels lazy, doesn't it? Because
it does.
DCAing into Bitcoin is probably 100 times easier for you to do than it is property.
Yeah.
So it feels lazy.
Easily.
Feels lazy.
Easily. Yeah.
And people will probably go, why are you being lazy, Darnell?
Yeah.
That's a bit silly. But when you actually look at the returns, like, no, this is the smart move. And then once Bitcoin's done its thing, then I could diversify back into some property and I'll do the same thing. But this is the sweet spot, and it's about returns. And this is the whole working harder or smarter. But
it's also, you're talking about harder and easier, but is it harder to actually be disciplined?
Yeah. Oh, it is.
Like, I suppose this is one of Darnell, my favorite subjects is around discipline. Discipline in saving money, investing money, fitness, in order to get these kind of goals. And you can do the big bang, you can try the spectacular, but nothing is better than just eating away every day, constantly at that goal.
Yeah. To have that DCA of X amount each month to do it and then do nothing else for a long period of time consistently, that's a reward within itself, as opposed to getting that big bang at the end, which typically doesn't really happen, does it? It goes big bang, not a very good big bang.
Because every week I could put my DCA money into a shitcoin, pick a random shitcoin which has got a reasonable write-up from someone on Twitter or whatever who's got a load of followers, and just put money into that. That's a way which we could do it. It might be the undisciplined way. Yeah. Whereas this one is, everyone knows about Bitcoin. Whoever wants can buy it. It's probably the most public thing in the crypto space. Well, actually it is.
Yeah. Or you could be, or you could trade it like this guy did. He didn't go into shitcoins. He just thought, I get it now. I've been in Bitcoin for a number of years, so I think I know what the cycle is. I know it hits certain marks and then comes back and then goes up. So if I can get all these 10% swings, then I can start increasing the amount of sats. And it's the second you think you understand the Bitcoin market, it bites you in the ass.
There's no pattern. I've thought about this myself because in September, it looks like we're going to hit a high. So the temptation is, should I sell and then buy back in January or something, in the January sales? But you kind of going, if I sell, maybe I'll never get back in and I'll be sitting there bitter as anything.
That's another thing, actually. I definitely want to touch on that. When people say, oh, why didn't you sell at the high? And then when it was $60,000 and then obviously get back in when it went low. Well, I didn't know it was going to go back down to whatever it did.
I've got a belief in the fundamental system, and I'm not going to gamble it away.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are literally waiting for Bitcoin to be worth infinite dollars, because that's what's coming. Once the dollar is worthless pieces of shit, the world will be denominated in sats. That is fundamental. That's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin. It's like, it's an investment, and you can buy and sell along the way and do whatever you want. That's just like any other asset that has ever existed in the world. But fundamentally, we are talking about the next evolution of money. So the beautiful thing is, like, there is no end game for Bitcoin other than everyone will be denominating their life in it at the end. So whoever does it, the point where we're still saying one Bitcoin's worth £35,000, that's early, because eventually it's going to be, how much is that house? Oh, it's 200,000 sats. That's suddenly when we realize we're on a Bitcoin standard now, when we're denominating things in sats. So that's why you can just hold this forever. And even no matter how many 80% drawdowns you get, you don't give a shit, because you know it's coming back and you know we're going to replace the dollar in the end. So that's the thing that people don't get. And that's undoubtedly the hardest thing to get. Gains is the easy one to get. The hardest thing to get is, oh yeah, by the way, all money is going to collapse and we're going to denominate our money in Satoshis in the end. And you're like, most people will look at you like you're a fucking crazy person if you tell them that.
Yeah. It's getting your head wrapped around that, especially when you don't have anything to piece it to kind of think, okay, you get to this, and right, that's how you make that logical step. Brilliant. I get it. Nothing. You start from, it's like learning a new language.
Yeah, it really is. Should we haven't done any tinfoil hat stuff. So I want to do one of
that. I saw this one and I thought, oh God, guys.
Do you know what I always think, actually, because we've got now 20 shows of the world's most bullish podcast, you should put all of the FUDs together in like these short clips to just get more of us out there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, so we've got a story, which is it's obviously it's about COVID. And it really is. It's called dailyexperience.co.uk.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
I need to actually make a hat.
Yeah, and I like it as a story. Look, it's this is again just putting the data out there and looking at, and you can make your own conclusion as to what really happened. But it seems to be there was Tanzania,
Burundi,
and Haiti. All three of those had presidents that were anti the vaccine, said it's not tested, or we want to test it independently. We're not going to roll this out just because you tell us to. They all die. One gets shot. Someone rages out and shoots into pieces. The other two have mysterious heart attacks with, not really confirmed or denied. It's just they died. So basically all three of these leaders of these three countries die under quite shocking circumstances. Even though the party don't get replaced, the same party is still in power. A different politician takes over and is suddenly pro-vaccine, and within a matter of months has mandated it and rolling it out nationwide. So come to whatever conclusion you want there, but it does look like if you are a person in politics that does not buy in to the vaccine mandate narrative, your lifespan is probably going to be quite short.
What I don't understand is why the leaders didn't die of COVID.
One of them, they tried to make it actually be that. They actually said he died of COVID. And eventually they were like, some doctor went, I'm pretty sure it was a heart attack, mate. And they went, oh, they walked it back and went, okay. Because I remember that story, actually. It was the Haiti guy. Because weirdly, I think I was talking to one of my mates and he's a massive COVID Karen. And I had spoken to him before about, Haiti, like, fair play to them. They're standing up for it. I saw him a couple of weeks later and he went, oh, that guy, he died of COVID. It serves him right, doesn't it? I was like, did he? And I was like, I looked into it and it turned out he didn't die of COVID. He died of a fucking heart attack. It was just, they tried to actually pin it. They literally tried to making them say that he died of COVID, but they couldn't. They obviously hadn't paid off enough people in the chain, and they went, you know what, we're not going to get this one through. Let's just switch it and go, he died of a heart attack.
Yeah, I remember the Haiti guy, and shot 12 times at his house. Like, hold on, he lived in a.
He was shot 12 times after contacting COVID.
Yes.
One of the bullets had COVID on it, and that was what killed him.
Naturally.
Yeah, I actually saw videos of that raid on his house. There was some people.
Oh, really?
There's people that had filmed it in some of the houses next door. And admittedly, it was at night and it was a bit dark. But like people were commenting on it, going, "This isn't like a normal raid where just robbers are coming in. They came in like the SAS. Like they kind of pincer formation, bang. It was like this was a hit, right?
This was a hit.
This wasn't a normal. We're coming to rob you. Some guys turn up and it gets nasty, and then suddenly people start firing because you don't comply and you won't open the safe or something. This was guys coming in the dead of night, circled the house, pincered in, load of shots turned off. He had loads of security guards around. They all went down and they just scarpered. It was like that. That's an SAS hit. Let's be honest. And they were like, no, a random hit. Like we don't know what it was. Don't know what the motivation was. Come on, just freaking take the masks off. It's a load of freaking US Marines. We know what's going on.
Definitely.
Anyway, so if we weren't being cancelled before, we're definitely getting cancelled now. What else we got? We got the EU.
We have no Haiti fans.
Wallet.
The anonymous Bitcoin wallet. We haven't covered that, have we?
The article confused me because it starts off talking, basically it's an AML drive. It's like, oh yeah, we need to make sure that everyone's adhering to anti-money laundering regulations by monitoring. But then it uses examples early on, such as Coinbase and Kraken. I'm like, they do have an AML process. I think you just completely got mixed up whoever wrote this article.
Yeah.
Euronews.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Yeah, as always, they don't know what they're talking about. But fundamentally, what they're trying to do here is the key word in the article really is the word wallet. So what they're trying to do is, and also this is the thing, and this why they're talking about Coinbase and Kraken. Actually, this is the point: is when you send it out of Coinbase or Kraken, they want the address that you're sending it to be KYC'd. At the moment, it can be any address you want. So essentially, you're out of the system now. And then once you're out of that wallet, ideally, they want that KYC'd. So they want a name and a date of birth and a driving license and a passport attached to that wallet outside of that. Then if I send more than £10,000 worth of Bitcoin to another wallet, they want me KYC'd and the person I send it to KYC'd as well. And they're going to try and pass that into law because in reality, if I'm in the traditional banking world, that's exactly the case. I cannot send that amount of value around. In reality, I can't send more than £1 to another person online without being KYC'd at both ends because every single account in the world is KYC'd. Bitcoin wallets are not KYC'd, so they want to try and get that in. So when you send your when you send your sats to your, obviously if you're sending it to your own wallet, you'll probably be fine with it because you can be like, oh yeah, fine, it's the same KYC that's on my same account. But imagine if you're sending some value to me or sending it to someone else, you're going to have to then go, oh, well, this is Gaz, for example. You need to KYC with Coinbase before I can send this money to your address. They're going to block it. So this is what the EU are trying to do. Obviously, at the bottom, they're like, oh, but this is all solved by CBDCs. Like once you've got the banking fucking blockchain coined, it's all fine. Because obviously that's just in the same banking system.
Yeah, exactly. And that is a really good point, actually, because it heightens adoption for them because you might opt out of the CBD option and then think, okay, no, I don't need a bank account from you guys. I'll just use the old bank account that I've got. But you can't get the money that is coming from you for this. So you're like, oh, okay, I really need it now. Right, I'll pick it up. Brilliant. We need to know who it is, and that way they can track the funds easier. And again, it's about having. I know we've talked about this before. It's that having that conspiracy theorist mindset, and obviously that don't trust mindset, because people are, I will say, naive to not want to think, well, why do I not have to trust them? But trust me, you shouldn't trust them. Again, going back to the documentary of the Cocaine Cowboys, the amount of bribes that happened from people that were in a position of trust, from judges to solicitors and lawyers, and also jurors. And again, you just have to think, right, well, they were corruptible. This is corruptible. And the same with central banking digital accounts. It's corrupt. It's not there to help you.
Just because the thing is, like, China have used their version of this. You don't need a blockchain to do this, by the way. You can just, all you do is make all the banks completely state-owned, which is what China is, and then you just build an app, and you just link it into everything, right? And
yeah,
the way it is that you can get cancelled, and if you do get cancelled by saying something out of line, then they can freeze your banking just super simple. It's all just nice and connected. I don't have to go to individual banks and kind of do it. It's all just one central coin. So just like how, I've been suspended from Twitter numerous times, that's hurt me to a certain extent because I can't tweet. But imagine if this whole thing was tied into, well, my social account is tied into my banking, is tied into my identity and all the same thing. So because I spoke out, so even this week, right, I got suspended from LinkedIn this week for spreading misinformation, apparently.
What on earth did you do on LinkedIn this week?
I was thinking it must be a matter of time.
Yeah,
I was spamming LinkedIn like it was Twitter.
Yeah, well, I had a week off Twitter, didn't I? So I had a bit of a crazy week on LinkedIn, and just posted some stuff about the vaccine, saying it wasn't as safe as they're saying it was, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, there's a big red message, and I got a big long email saying I'm suspended from posting on LinkedIn for 7 days and all this kind of stuff. I was like, I don't really care about LinkedIn, whatever, do what you want with my account, just fucking burn it, don't give a shit. But at the same time, so this is twice in 2 weeks now, and it's on this kind of the same kind of topic, and you just go, look, they're basically restricting my freedom of speech, which to a certain extent, fine. But imagine if they froze my bank account during that time as well.
Yeah.
Now I care a lot more. Now I can't go out, I can't buy food, I can't travel. And this is what they're trying to do. This is if once they get the CBDCs all rolled out, it's all kind of connected in a single system with my identity, my money, my social, all linked in. One ban can be off. You're just done.
And you'll be a lot more careful about what you do, what you say, and ultimately a lot more compliant as well.
Yeah, it gets you in line. It really does.
Yeah.
Even my little ban on Twitter gets me more in line. I'm now not going to say the retard word on there.
Or you're giving out HJs around the back of Tesco's for a pack of ham.
I'll do that anyway. What's I got to do with it?
Anything for some ham.
Sucks of meat for some ham.
But I think that's certainly going to be, again, I love the fact that we've documented it, but going to be one of those things that as time goes on, we're going to look back and say, I told you so. Look at that.
I just don't know if I see those digital currencies coming in Europe purely because I just don't know if it's going to last that long.
Oh no, it's coming.
I think the system's
looking into it, but really it's
but you're looking
how do we get this out?
They've started calling it G coin, by the way, which is like gov coin, government coin.
Oh gosh.
So it's like that's a better name than the CBDC.
Yeah,
I can't even remember the acronym.
Yeah.
G coin is better because it's like it's gov coin.
Central banking digital currency.
But you're asking some government workers to roll out a cryptocurrency. That's why I just can't see it happening in time.
It's not a cryptocurrency, really. It's just an account with your digital numbers on it.
But that's complexity, which you're expecting the British government to do.
They need to hire some like 14-year-old kid, and he'll do it in a weekend for them, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I just don't see the government being competent enough to do it, is my point. And I think they've literally got 5 years left of currency because it's just falling apart at the moment.
That's a good point. Hopefully they fall apart before they get to it because, otherwise it's just going to be another because it could just extend. Because the thing is, like, there's a lot of people getting close, thinking, "Oh, this inflation thing is bad," and if they manage to sell Gcoin as, "Oh, this doesn't inflate," even though it's owned by the same fucking people, it's like if they're going to inflate the pound, they're going to inflate the Gcoin. Like, clearly, it's the same fucking thing. But
this is it. They go, "We want you to use the Gcoin." So everyone's just like, "What? Why should I use that?" You know, you've also
we
got
give you free Amazon vouchers with it. There you go.
And packs of ham.
yeah.
We'll give you 1,000 Gcoin every month just to sit at home and do nothing. You're like, okay,
we'll pay your Amazon subscription and your Netflix subscription and anything else that you need, but you need to use this. People with their small incentives will pick it up.
I don't know. I just don't see enough adoption happening with it. And like I said, I think you've got a limited time frame. And then I know that obviously Gaz pushes his point around. They want you to be sat at home eating your Uber Eats or whatever it is whilst watching Netflix. I think even the government aren't stupid enough to think that'll work long term. Because they need you to work. We need productive people in order to have an actual value against some currency.
Have a look in the latest Amazon warehouse. Robots are firing around doing everything. So what they realize is that automation is going to replace most of the manual labor. So it's something like 30% of the jobs require driving. We've got autonomous cars coming in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Factory working is another 20%. That's just putting stuff in boxes. Once you've got automation and robots doing the majority of that, what the fuck are humans supposed to do? They're preparing us to go, look, we don't need you to do anything anymore. The economy is going to run with robots. So we don't want you to get too rowdy and start trying to take this system down. So we're going to get you nice and prepared to stay at home, get used to your nice food delivered to your door, watching your nice entertainment, because we don't need you to a certain extent, like over time, like 10, 20% of people each year, we don't need you in the world anymore. So just sit at home. Because I genuinely think it's going to be a big problem. I think if they allowed it to happen, I think if we're on a Bitcoin standard, I think automation comes in and I think humans will create new jobs. But we're on a fiat standard right now. We're not innovating. We're not doing the next thing. We should be on Mars by now. We should be on the moon by now. And there'll be a shit ton of new jobs to go. Who wants to go to the moon and create the next business? Who wants to create the next rocket ship? But we're not. We're on the fiat standard with zero accountability. We haven't progressed in 50 years, basically on anything. So we're just fat and lazy. And basically technology has caught up with us so far that they can do all the jobs that humans do. A robot can do it 10 times better for 100th of the price. They don't need us to do half the jobs that humans do right now. And if you fast forward 10, 20 years, and if you can't see factory workers and drivers being replaced 100% by robots, that's 50% of the population. Their jobs exist in those categories. So we have to create 50%, which is like basically 4 billion jobs in something else. We are not innovating at all at the moment. At all. We're completely stagnant because the governments have made us stagnant. And literally the last 2 years, for example, we've probably gone backwards.
Yeah.
We're in trouble. And so we need to get on the Bitcoin standard ASAP to try and fix that. Otherwise, we're going to be in this horrible situation of being on a fiat standard where robots can do 50% of what humans do in jobs. And even if the government weren't paying them, these people will not have jobs to do. And we will turn into a Mad Max environment, because if 50% of the people don't have jobs and the government aren't giving them money, then they go steal from the other 50%.
Yeah.
They
Exactly.
turn up with a baseball bat on your door and go, "Give me your food."
Yeah.
It's not going to be a pleasant environment. So to a certain extent, the government are predicting that and going, we need to placate these people so they don't go rob from the rich, get them satisfied to be sat at home doing nothing, because in 20 years' time, that is what they will be doing, and we need them calm. And I hate to say it, I'm going to throw in my little conspiracy theory, which is we're going to get them jabbed every 6 months, and fundamentally we're going to make them go infertile so they can't breed. So then they end up dying out. So we don't want too many of them. Because if they all sat at home doing nothing, they could have like 10 kids and they're going to become a drain. So we're going to inject them with these jabs every 6 months, make them sterile, so they no longer can reproduce. And the 50% in the productive side of society that are doing jobs that, doctors, don't even know. There's not many jobs that robots can't do. It's quite hard to actually figure it out.
Yeah, I think about this as well, actually. Yeah, I don't know what jobs that they can't do.
Yeah. When you think about it, like stockbrokers, like airline pilots, like all these things.
Even
do all these things better.
Even doctors, lawyers. So it's all based upon logic.
They can do surgery, essentially. Yeah, bedside manner. It's hard, but once you get past that, everything else will be fine. But you could program a computer to understand and diagnose your symptoms with all of the various different outcomes of what it could be.
It wouldn't even ask you a question. It would just scan you.
Yeah.
And take a sample of your blood. It would just tell you.
Yeah.
And be like, yeah, you got this.
Yeah.
Lie down. You got a tumor here. Lie down. I'll take it out. Like it wouldn't even, and it would be 100% correct. Like, it wouldn't be like a doctor where it's analyzing the result and going, oh, it could be this, could be that. It's just going to be like, no. I've looked at this sample, compared it against 4 billion other samples, looked at 4 billion other doctors' opinions, and this is my opinion. Yeah. It's going to be the closest to being correct as it can be.
Saying we're going to get into all these robots, but we're still stuck on the Fiat standard. So you're waiting for all that to progress when we're a bit stuck as well.
Yeah, well weirdly, we've got a couple of companies that are progressing that. We've got things like Amazon and Tesla. They are progressing it, and I think it's inevitable. I think fundamentally, right, we're going to get there anyway, because it's a whole Moore's law thing. So the technology is going to get there. So certain companies are innovating. It's just that we're not going to leverage that innovation as well as we should. We should be getting those robots to do new things, and basically they should be just chasing up the back end of what human innovation is doing and just automating like the long tail. And the humans are constantly keeping ahead of them, doing new, complicated shit. The problem is what we've done, because we've stagnated, the computers have caught up with us and can pretty much do everything.
Yeah.
So now we're in trouble. Now we're like in a point where we're like, what's the point in paying a human being a minimum wage when I can buy a robot for $5,000 and it works for 100 years and just does the job of a human being? Now we're in trouble.
Yeah, with zero complaints.
Because exactly, yeah. You don't have to watch about its gender pronouns or what toilet to put it in, what skin color it's got. Like it doesn't give a shit. Just put a battery in it and it fucking goes and shuts the fuck up. God, we've overrun a lot today, but we've got one last story and we've got a Bitcoin lesson.
Go for it.
And it's just something purely, if anyone's listened this far, I don't reckon anyone is listening this far into this fucking episode. But there's a guide to home mining, which I thought was interesting because it's something I read and actually learned some stuff from it, because it's something that I might look into over the next couple of months or something. Because at the moment, by the way, like Bitcoin mining is super profitable, because it still is, because we still haven't fully recovered from the hash power shock that came from China.
So you're saying even with one ASIC computer, you could mine and wow.
The way you do it, what you do is you're just contributing, and what you can do is you can pool your resources. So this guy, he just tells you how to set up a miner in here, but then the final point is he recommends sign up to Slush Pool. So what you can do then, once you sign up to Slush Pool, you pool your resources, right? So now thousands of people all are joined together as your hash power. And if any one of you finds the block, the 12.5 Bitcoin, or is it 6.25 now? I always forget. We're on 6.25 now.
Yeah, 6.25.
I think we are.
If it's 900 for the day, divided by the...
I really should know that stat. But anyway, whatever it is, thousands of Bitcoin, whatever your contribution to the pool is, you get that percentage of Bitcoin back. So, for example, if you're running this miner, it would probably cost you about, say, $5,000 to buy the miner. Then it would cost you about £5 a day to power it in energy. So if your miner, your pool managed to find a block, and it finds a block every couple of days, the 6 Bitcoin is worth, like today is, what's that? That's like 350 grand. So now suddenly that 350 grand for that block gets spread across the thousands of people. So you might then get like $1,000 payment. So that suddenly pays for your energy for like 3 months with some profit. And then if you find another block in the next couple of weeks, so basically what you can do is you pool your resources essentially. As an individual miner, it's going to be a complete lottery whether you ever mine a block. Chances are you'll never mine one. But it's a little bit like, actually, yeah, the perfect analogy actually is like a lottery syndicate. So instead of buying a lottery ticket for yourself, you do it in work and you sign up for a syndicate with where there's, say, 100 people doing it. Now, suddenly, you've got more chance of winning. But if you do win the big prize, you only win 100th of it. But you're happy. So you do that with mining. So, because obviously, if you just set up a single miner, you paid your $5,000 and we're paying £5 a day, and you manage to mine a block and you get 350 grand, fucking boom. That's it. Yeah. But chances are it's not going to happen. So you pool your resource in with someone else. There's 1,000 people that are doing the same. You mine blocks quite regularly. Someone in that 1,000 finds like multiple blocks over the course of a month. That funds, and on average, you can then be profitable.
Yeah.
It changes it from being a gamble to being quite reliable income.
So what we're going to do is buy a few miners between us and stick them in your flat.
They're too noisy. I can't put them in my flat.
If
I move out, you can put them in here. Oh, actually, if you're going to do that, I'll go and get I'll rent somewhere else that's got the bills included and just screw the fuck out of them.
Yeah.
Why is the electricity $1,000 a month?
I'd be like, oh man, if I got bills included for the first couple of months, I'd set up about 60 miners in there and be like, got 40 grand a month bill. It's like, fuck you, bitch.
It's in the contract.
I made a couple million Bitcoin gains.
That is a fair point. So you can mine many different cryptos, and obviously, if you're doing, say, housing, and you do bills all in, then it is a big risk, especially students. So you could be, mining some shitty crypto, which doesn't require a high spec machine, and absolutely fleecing you for electricity.
Yeah, there was loads of stories of that back in 2017 when there was students doing exactly that. And the problem is, like, obviously most of the meters aren't smart meters. They just tick over, don't they? And if students don't give the meter reading to the authority board, electricity board, then they have no clue how much energy is being used. So they were like using tens of thousands of pounds worth of energy with these Bitcoin miners, unplugging them all and moving out, and then just leaving a bill behind. And the landlord would be like, oh yeah, bills included, and then be hit with a 40 grand bill. And they were like, what the fuck happened here? And their first thought was, oh, they're running a weed farm out of here, because that was the previous high energy kind of grift. It was just plugging in loads of like UV lamps and having like all the UV on the plants and growing the plants. But no, in reality, it was like, no, there was no evidence of weed anywhere. And they were like, oh no, they just plugged in 10 miners and they just fucking rinsed the energy. The problem is they're called ASICs, which is like they are designed specifically to maximize the processing power they have to 100% constantly. So the amount of energy you can give them, it takes up all the energy and just processes as many of these mathematical algorithms as possible. So they drink energy, these things. So you need to know what you're doing. But yeah, I thought it was a good article. So I'll link it. If people are interested, go take a look, because I am tempted to go into the world of mining just to experiment a little bit. So I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Yeah, I'd say spread the numbers out.
I'm tempted to buy one for your flat as well.
I move out, you can have it, but whilst I'm still here, you can't have it.
So where would you put your miner then if you bought one?
Oh yeah, well, I would put it in my flat. It's just they are noisy. So and like the more you have.
So what's the harm if mine and Darnell lives there as well?
If you like type into YouTube like Bitcoin mining warehouse, it's like a fucking beehive, but like times 1,000. They're loud. So if you had one, I reckon I could kind of put it in my spare toilet and like wrap it up a little bit, and like I reckon I could kind of drown it out. Once you start getting 2, 3, 4, it starts to get to a point where you're like,
well, I've had a property that's been empty for the last 6 months.
Yeah, it'd almost be cheaper to like, you probably just buy somewhere cheaper and just buy an old barn or something and just put a power line into it and just rack it up. Yeah. But again, it's what I'd also be thinking. It's if there was any place in the UK that had renewable energy. So if you're next to a wind farm or a hydro farm, again, plug into it. That's a key win as well. If you can get past that £5 a day worth of energy, that's the thing that like dictates whether you're profitable or in loss. So if you can take that £5 out because you've got some solar panel or you've got some hydro energy, that's the key. Which is why, like when we say Bitcoin is like, oh, it's a drain, it's going to burn the oceans. No, we're incentivized to find free energy. I'm literally already thinking it now. I'm like, if I can move out to the country, get a freaking be near a wind farm that doesn't have all the energy going into the kind of into the mains, then I can have like it suddenly justifies mining. So that's what miners are doing. They're going to places where there's cheap energy because it's very, very profitable. You're not incentivized to plug into the mains and run your miners. That's what everyone would do. So to be competitive, to have a differentiator, which everyone does in business, where do you get cheaper energy? It happens to be renewable. Like we don't care about saving the planet. We're not trying to claim to be like fucking greater than good. It's just renewable energy is just cheaper. So we want the cheaper energy.
So solar panels as well then.
Yeah. It's just solar tends to be like very, very like you don't get much energy from it, like it'll run your house, but it won't run a miner.
Certainly not here either.
Yeah, you need like wind or hydro. Already gas. There's a load of excess gas that just comes out the ground. So there's a load of American miners that have gone near these natural gas mines that gas just pisses out the ground, and they can't kind of gather it all fast enough to put it into the gas supply. So they've been converting that on site and going, we will convert these little bits of gas that's pissing out the ground, and converting that into electricity and using it for mining. There's a guy I follow on Twitter, he set up a whole company around the excess gas and converting it into American Bitcoin mining, which is, it's and then the ironic thing is they will count that energy that guy uses as like a negative against Bitcoin. And it's like, no, that energy was just pissing off into the atmosphere. Like nothing was happening with it. The fact he is harnessing it, don't count that as, oh, you're boiling the oceans now. It's like, no, there's so much like, what is it? Like
it's already going on before. Yeah,
like 99.8% of the energy that exists on the planet, it just gets wasted because it's the sun's rays that hit the earth and we don't capture most of it. It just all hits the earth and it absorbs in. It's just totally wasted. So anyway, I think you're both falling asleep over there, so I think it's time to call it a day. It's nearly 11:30. We're getting late.
Here we are. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, there we have it. Episode 20 brought to you in part by Dr. Evil 10%, Mr. Orlin, and myself, Sir Neverlook, world's most bullish podcast. Peace out. Yeah, fellow plebs, if you want to hear us, then tune in.